I would like to begin the episode by thanking Eric Gabe, Garrett Morgan, Joel Abraham, Jordan Goad, and Nikki Boland. All 5 of these people have gone to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and supported us very generously. So thank you to them, and thank you to you if you have done likewise, or if you are considering doing likewise. Once again, patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. We are entirely listener supported.
In your mind's eye lives a memory hard to find, blinded by sorrow, and her cold voice sings a melody, hear her sing, till frozen rain falls down.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we are talking about Silent Hill Shattered Memories, which is a survival horror game developed by Climax Studios and published by Konami for the Nintendo Wii in 2009.
Did you ever think about how gross a name Climax Studios is? Like, I didn't really put that together until I was, like, looking at stuff today.
I mean...
not just because of orgasms, but just because it sounds dated, and then it sounds like orgasms. And then it sounds,
a little bit. It feels a little bit like when, what was it, like EA Redmond, the team that made... Dead Space and the Dante's Inferno game, they rebranded themselves as Visceral Studios.
Yeah, Visceral. Yeah. It sounds dated in that way, but with like plus comes. Yeah, plus hog time. Climax Studios. Like, it sounds fake.
Right.
So this game from Climax Studios is a remake or a reimagining or a reboot or a game based on the first game in the Silent Hill franchise, which tells the story of Harry Mason and his search for his daughter Cheryl. But it is barely based on it. It's basically just that conceit. And then the actual story is incredibly different.
Yes, quite so. And I would like to say, for me personally, us covering this game does not preclude us from covering Silent Hill 1 sometime in the future.
Yeah, I would do Silent Hill 1. Yeah. I found joy in Silent Hill 1. I think that the combat is extremely dodgy in it.
Yeah.
Not dodgy in a Resident Evil 3 way. Dodgy in I'm just taking hits from dogs that I can't turn around quick enough.
There's pterodactyls in the streets taking chunks out of me. Yeah.
But I ended up replaying or played Silent Hill 1 for the first time to completion before we covered Silent Hill 3, making this my 4th Silent Hill game.
I know. We are in my neighborhood, but you are welcome here, Gary.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And I dig this game. I was making fun of it for not being scary earlier, and there are things I don't dig about it. I think it is ambitious and cool. It's one of those things where it's like, I wish it had hit a little bit more of its potential, but its potential is worth respecting regardless.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
about where I fall
kind of where I land
on
this.
I think it is super neat. And I think that it does a lot of incredibly interesting things just in terms of games, but also in terms of like what it does with the series mythos. And where it fits into the series, kind of like well after, knowing the whole timeline of the series now, well after it had kind of, reached the apex of its quality, right? Like this is a hint of a different direction it could have gone.
To me, it feels like the strength of it is that it doesn't fit into the mythos.
Oh, yeah.
Like this feels, we'll talk about it, and it's, you've got to hear as a bullet point, but we'll just mention it is that we're going to spoil the hell out of this game, and we're not going to wait for the Anne Orlando moment. So just so you know, if you plan on playing this game, which I recommend, it is with some caveats, right? Like there are some things that are frustrating about it. I recommend playing it. If you're going to, stop the podcast and play it and come back, if you're never going to play it, or you've already played it, continue listening.
Yeah, it's impossible to meaningfully comment on what happens in this game without reflecting on, without the final twist reflecting on it, right? So,
even not just the game itself, but also where it falls in the series, because this gives Silent Hill kind of for the first time that I know, an explicit, it was all in the mind out.
Yeah.
Like this is purely psychological and not supernatural, even a little bit. And, I don't know if that is a direction that I really like for Silent Hill, Like, I like monsters and I want them to be real in general. Like in any fiction, I want the monster to be real. Like I don't want this to be a figment of someone's imagination. I don't care about that. I don't think that's interesting. Give me the monster. But in this, it's handled just really, really well. It's like a trope that I don't love, but it's definitely done.
Yeah, they really do their homework in terms of they put in the work to make the twist pay off like that. This is not the first time that they have done this. One of the endings of Silent Hill 1 implies that this is the case. That is non-canonical, but it's, down there with one of the worst endings that you can get. Has, basically after the final boss fight, it cuts back to Harry lying dead in the car. The accident was just an accident that killed him. And all of this was a Jacob's Ladder occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge kind of thing. Yeah.
Get that shit out of my fiction.
It's pretty bad.
Like I didn't come here I came here for monsters. Like I didn't come here for like, what if someone thought of a monster? I can do that myself.
Yeah.
Like I can just imagine a monster.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not worth a movie to imagine a monster.
But Silent Hill games, they generally fall into one of two categories, either, the cult and the history or personal hell, right? And you can see that in Silent Hill 1 versus Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 1 is related to the cult and why this land is cursed and why this particular, why the other world manifests in the way that it does. But that has an element of the personal hell side of it, because everything that you're seeing is related to what Alessa went through when her mom sacrificed her, right? And everything leading up to that, her own life. Silent Hill 2, personal hell, but James is going through that because the town is a special place because of what happened during the Reconstruction and before that with the natives, etc. This goes 100% toward the personal hell.
Yeah, they don't, there's no marriage between those two ideas. And I do think, as much as this is interesting, I do think that Silent Hill is kind of a more interesting concept when it is a bad place where supernatural things happen that elevate these personal hell things.
Yes. Yeah.
Otherwise you just end up with like novels about librarians in New York coming to terms with their families. Right. I'm not here for that.
Yeah. I want monsters.
I didn't play a horror game for that. It's at some point, it is just the other, I know that you're sick of me pressuring you to watch movies, but one reason is so we have a common frame of reference for some of these discussions we've had. Yeah. Just throwing that out there as a business reason.
Okay. Gotcha.
So it's not just me being a dick. It's also a business decision.
Yeah. It's also so we can leave more people out of a conversation that has less.
But we could be in it.
Yeah. Okay.
So more of us can be in it. Well, it's not so we can leave more people out. Yeah. Can you imagine being on the other side of that? Like, you get to be on the in group of that conversation.
I know, for once. I never win anything.
Yeah. You win the satisfaction of it. So this is, we're going to spoil the twist.
Yes.
So you control Harry. It's over the shoulder, third person exploring the town, and I would say 3 different modes if you count the psychology.
I bring the third mode in there. Yeah, but the exploration is 2 different modes. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it is a highly modal game.
Ridiculously modal.
This is perhaps the most like, now it is time for this gameplay mode. Now it is time for this gameplay mode. Game that I've ever played.
They have a reason for doing it, but it's a bad reason to a bad effect.
It's a really bad effect.
Yeah.
Like it is greatly to the game's detriment. And we'll talk about that. So there's exploration mode where everything is normal. The town is empty. There's a huge snowstorm. It is maybe a little bit like eerie, but not, nothing is really and nothing can happen.
Right.
During that, which is like, not a fatal flaw, but a significant flaw to this game in terms of it providing tension or being scary.
Right. It is
nothing
only
can happen.
Those are only scary and tense until you realize that nothing can happen. Like when you go, 3 or 4 dungeons, or 1 or 2 dungeons without something coming at you, without passing between puzzle rooms through a hallway with a monster in it, you really, like happened in previous Silent Hill games, then you can rest comfortably whenever the world isn't frozen. And we're going to talk about the pursuit mode later. It's a real bummer.
It does a lot to drain, not just like scary, because, you talk about games being scary, and it's like, even when games are not scary, they can be kind of tense.
Yes.
And it drains any tension from this in a way that is like definitely to its detriment in terms of appreciating its kind of bigger themes. Like it ended up having an effect of like kind of a chilling my appreciation of this and making it almost purely intellectual.
Yeah.
Like I didn't feel very much from this game, and partly because the game doesn't do a lot for that. Like the actual story itself is sad, but I'm not having any visceral emotion during the game. I'm just kind of admiring what it does intellectually, which isn't, totally damning, but it is something that was lost with this choice.
Without tension in play, there is, very little tension to be experienced as the fiction. And there, that tension in what you are doing in the game that makes a kind of catharsis that takes all of these ingredients and makes them stick, as opposed to washing off of you, right?
Well, there's no, if you just know that it's downtime, it doesn't feel like downtime. Like the feeling of getting to a save room in a Resident Evil or getting to a cutscene or a story part is a really potent cocktail of not just intellectual emotions, but a chemistry that's happening in your body.
Yes.
Like even if you know that, there's nothing scary in a horror game, you can't be hurt. There's still at least a little bit of buy-in of just you trying to make a decision. Even if you're not scared by that decision, you're still making a choice. You're still having your reflexes tested.
You are still under duress. There is no duress to be found here outside of the chase portions.
And even those pretty quickly become duressless.
Yes.
So not only do you just kind of know hey, there's no danger. I can expect everything that's going to happen. But even once you get into those sections don't have teeth in a way that feels meaningful. So there is none of that rise and fall of your blood. Yeah. Like that feeling of there is a little bit of adrenaline in my blood, even just a touch. And then it went away and then it went back. And going through an entire Silent Hill game with none of that, or just a little bit of that in the beginning. And then the rest of it is really strange. Yes. And did surprising things to the narrative. There is almost a post adrenaline state that the previous games put you into when it's time to experience story stuff. Yeah. Where you're kind of coming down from being scared. And I think it makes you really susceptible. Yeah.
Picture
to the psychological stuff.
Exactly. Picture the tension as a sine wave. It is those ups and downs and kind of the gray areas in between, as opposed to this, which is just step up, step down, step up, step down.
Yeah. And then the step up gets increasingly less. Yes. So as you get used to it, until eventually nothing is happening in my body chemistry and I'm just reading a book that I'm not particularly immersed in. Basically.
Yeah. Appreciating it solely academically or intellectually is a really good way to put this. At no point does this actually climb down the ladder to
get my emotion, touch my heart, touch my emotions, get in my blood. It never really does it. Yeah. So when you're doing exploration mode, the first of these modes, the analog stick, we play this on Wii. You don't have to. It was published for PSP as well.
And PS2.
But Yep. So use the Wiimote to, or the Wii nunchuck to control your movement. Use the pointer to direct a flashlight, which turns into a camera when you get out your cell phone. And then the speaker on the Wii remote is your radio that's in game. It's your cell phone that you can listen to. Yeah. It does a really good, a lot of good stuff with the physicality of Wii interface. Yes. Which makes this one of one game that does that well. It's such an annoying gimmick, and I'm glad that it died. Yeah, and this game does it pretty well.
This is about as good as I've seen the Wii hardware integrated with play, and it's still pretty gimmicky. You're doing little manipulation puzzles that would not be out of place, in a David Cage game, right?
Yeah, they feel like they were demos to teach you how to use the Wiimote. They feel because puzzle is real generous for anything that happens in this game. A lot of times the puzzle is using an interface to turn a knob or whatever. And it is fun and tactile and satisfying, but it's not, it doesn't really engage your brain in a way. There is a weird hands-offness to this whole game that feels deliberate, but not enough for me to be oh, that's the point. You're supposed to feel hands off because it's not really you, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that is true. I think that it's just kind of sometimes a task, in a new interface. It's why a lot of, Ocarina puzzles are, what if you looked up? and they were just trying to get you to look up, and that's the puzzle. And it's really obnoxious to me now, but at the time it was kind of interesting. Here, it's just getting you used to the Wii remote and that interface.
Yeah. So you go, you do use the motion controls to solve some puzzles, and there are some puzzles. We'll talk about them, like the things I would actually categorize as that. But it is a lot of like, pull this pin out of the lock to open the door. Like it's, literally just there to say, hey, isn't the Wii pretty good? This justifies it being an exclusive on the Wii, at least for a little bit. But you go about these things. Eventually you reach a certain point. Usually there's a cinematic where somebody tells Harry something he doesn't want to hear. Then the entire world freezes over in a really cool way. The other world here is about ice and snow as opposed to ash and smoke and rust. Which is another departure that they made, and I think that works. And you are pursued by the only monster in this game, these raw shocks.
Yes. Pun.
Yes.
So if for people in the audience, that is how you pronounce the name of the Watchman known as Rorschach.
Yes.
Is how that word's actually pronounced. And then the world not just freezes over, it also changes.
Yes.
It becomes a kind of abstract maze, which again is something that I think aesthetically looks kind of neat, and eventually became something that I thought was really detrimental to the game.
Like it's neat at the start, in the middle it becomes pretty tedious, and I think it's used to really good effect as the kind of cohesion of the world stops. Like the final maze chase dungeon, I think is really good in this. Yeah.
I just feel like, to me, the thrill of pursuit a lot of times in what they do, the rock shocks, they chase you, and that's all they really do until you get to a specific door that puts you back in the real world.
Right.
We'll talk about kind of what they do, but to me, like when you have pursuit based gameplay, a lot of that is interesting because it's recontextualizing a space that you knew. To how to get through it. So it's like, hey, I explored this kind of languidly. Oh, well, shit, how well do I remember it? Yeah. To get chased through it. And this doesn't do that. Like the spaces are too abstract. You lose any kind of sense of place. You lose, you lose that sense, that part of pursuit. So it becomes like a weird, like an iPhone runner. In effect,
that's a good way to put it. With the added kind of benefit of you have a waypoint, you have a goal you're trying to get to, and there is like forward isn't the only way. You do have to make choices and keep a general sense of your bearing for how to get where you're going to go. Some of these dungeons is real easy to turn around in. Yeah, because they're mazes. They're like mazes without a sense of place. They're no longer real places. They're Doom levels. Right.
Like we switched into Doom levels, and that just as a trick like loses me pretty quick. And it doesn't, for a game though where the only verb is to be pursued, which is something I really like in video games, in horror games specifically. I was never really scared or tense during these, and I also did not enjoy the environment I was moving through. Like it didn't have that going for it. And they could have done, this is something where I feel like if this were a game that's made now, they could have done more. Like I wish that there had been like I was thinking about this chase scene, the big one in Dark Corners of the Earth. Yeah. When you go through that room and there's like the fish woman who like you walked in on her and you don't have time to look at her. She's just kind of there out of the corner of your eye.
All you do is hear her yelling. Yeah.
Yeah. Like what if they did more stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there were things here that were marked on the psychology of the game, that were marked on the story, were marked on the world, as opposed to Doom levels made of ice.
Yes.
And it just ended up bumming me out. Yeah. Like as a thing. And the actual mechanics of what happens, the consequence for being chased is really rote as well. Like as much as, it's cool that you can't fight back, what happens is they get on you and then you have to do a wee waggle really hard to get them off. And then they're off and they're stunned for a second and you keep running.
Right.
That's like basically it.
Just about.
You can hide, which I did not know. I didn't know the whole time I played this game.
Right.
I read about it later, but you can hide. Yeah. But they just kind of home in on you. They don't have like AI. It's not a stealth game or it's not Alien Isolation, right? Like they're not searching for you. They just home in on you.
Yeah. You can throw obstacles to slow them down. Yeah.
Yeah. And it does slow them down, but it just feels like they kind of randomly spawn in.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially the ones that come at you from in front of you. It doesn't feel like I go through a door and a raw shock bursts through at me. It doesn't feel like that is intentional to like dissuade me from going down a path. Like, no, that's actually the way that I need to go. It just feels kind of random.
Yeah, it's just a world state where these things are always chasing me from all angles during this world state. So I may as well just kind of push through, and like if I die and have to restart, well, fuck, I shouldn't have gone that way.
Yeah.
If not, I just kind of go forward. Like these are tensionless, and there's maybe 6 of them. There's like 6 or 7. There aren't that many of them,
Right.
but they're long, and I did not get value out of them. Like I ended up hating these things, even like, and pretty much from the start. Like the first time it happened, I was like, oh, this is kind of neat. But I did not get a lot of joy out of these. I don't like them.
Yeah, it doesn't. It starts at a place and no more interest is added. For me at least, until you get to the last one, the one that takes place in the apartment, the nowhere.
Yeah.
And I think that is cool. But yeah, it just kind of starts at a place and nothing really is added. Like maybe there will be, so there's one in the mall where you have a puzzle that you have to do that relies on you either remembering a thing or going back to it. And that's about it. You've got flares and stuff that can make it a little bit easier, but it's more like a no shit button that you can press to get all of them off of you if you are dragged down.
Yeah. Yep. And if you fail, like, you try again.
Yes.
Which is okay. I'm not saying I wanted to erase your save or anything. It just, it added to the lack of consequence, added to the feeling of lack of impact of these sequences.
Contrast that with other entries in the series or with survival horror games in general before this, where failure in doing poorly in combat or having like a bad dungeon for combat puts you in a much worse position for later on.
Yeah. You either lose more progress via typewriter system, which is something that I can have mixed feelings about, or you barely make it and you made bad. You fuck up the meta game.
Yes.
Like, which is you maintaining your resources for the entire game, and there's no metagame to this.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to fuck up there, and it just it drained just like so much from these sequences, and it's not, they don't do it constantly. It's not most of the game. Most of the game is a walking sim.
Yeah.
Similar to like Call of Cthulhu, right? Like this feels like big walking sim energy to me. But the parts where it's there are actively like very subtractive to me.
Yeah.
Kind of rolled my eyes.
Yeah. The reason that Climax took these things apart, separated monsters and puzzles or monsters and exploration, was because they didn't want to overwhelm the players. They wanted to foreground their story. They wanted to foreground immersion. And they felt that if you had to run when they were trying to show you something, that would be a detrimental experience, especially for people that they were trying to bring in, because this is a fresh start, somebody who had never played a Silent Hill game before. What that did is just compromise the product, as we've alluded to, because that sense of overwhelm is a huge part of the horror. It's a huge part of the dread. Like, overwhelm me, please. As a person who likes horror games, that is the thing that does it for me.
Or cut it out.
Yep.
Or just make your walking sim that is like a psychological game that is not meant to be overwhelming or scary or tense, because you're not going to get it with this.
Right.
And just have this be the story of this, figment of imagination, slowly realizing it's a figment of an imagination.
Yes.
And just go with that. But it feels like an unconfident move to me. I do not like.
Yeah.
The third mode, which is good, which is this first person mode where you're being psychoanalyzed by the absolutely worst psychologist on earth.
Dr. Kaufman.
The horny drunk.
the very aggressive horny drunk.
Yeah, the aggressive horny drunk. All 3 of those words, like those are 3 things that can happen when you drink.
Yep.
And none of them are good. Like no one's like, man, I really love him. Like when he gets a few drinks in him, he gets real horny.
Yeah.
Like he gets real aggressive. Like nobody wants this, Like I love it when he drinks a lot. He gets real drunk.
Yeah.
Like this is all stuff you're just describing like a sad old friend from high school.
Yeah. And it's like the point of these things is that you cannot talk. Otherwise that would give it up. A psychologist who talks more than you is not doing their job correctly, but he is definitely like just like insulting you and berating you. Like in the story, in the story, he is, the like the last resort kind of guy, the one who uses these methods to break people out.
Brain boot camp.
Yeah, brain camp, basic braining. Yeah, basic braining. But before before you realize that, Cheryl is, and basically like a last ditch effort at this point, it comes across as real bad.
Yeah,
but it's effective, right? Like it's scary. Like
it does break her down, and they're great. They're fun scenes.
Yeah,
like they're really welcome.
Yeah.
Every time they come up, like out of the 2 out of 3 modes of this are pretty good. It's effective. It works in the plot.
Yeah.
It works to do what it's supposed to do. It's just imagining like going to a psychologist, especially knowing the twist, and just being like, you don't get enough sex, do you?
Yeah.
You could stand to get laid more. Just, Jesus Christ, dude.
As I swirl my rocks glass.
Yeah, just I've seen drinking before you showed up.
Yeah,
just horny drunk.
Oh yeah, but when you're in his office, he is kind of administering tests to you. He is asking you questions, and you nod or shake your head by moving the Wii remote, and he's giving these little quizzes. And this plays into the themes of the game. Usually, the questions relate to what just happened in the game or what is about to happen, and it also plays into kind of like the real innovation of the game. I think like the thing that makes this the most noteworthy, which is the psychographics.
This is definitely the hook.
Yes.
Like if this were not in the game. What would justify the game?
I don't know.
This is the hook. This is the cool thing. It's not the Wii controls. It's definitely not the chase sequences, and it's really not the reimagining of the story, because as we mentioned, like this takes the story and just says like it was all a dream, basically.
Right.
Which is not an interesting way to take it. This is the thing that is interesting about the game.
The game opens up with a big red warning, psychology warning. This game plays you as much as you play it, which is a marketing tagline if I have ever heard
marketing.
one. Yeah,
like really, really hilariously marketing. Like, oh no, this is dangerous. I'm gonna have to get mom to tell me it's okay to play this. But what it does is it does keep pretty meticulous track of things that you do, which sorts you into 4 categories that correspond to different endings, but also change the cutscenes and individual details of the game. And this is something where like I'm not going to play this again, but I can see on repeat playthroughs, role playing making this very satisfying.
Yes.
Because a lot of the changes are pretty superficial, but it can be, it's interesting that like, hey, your character was super extra horny. Now there is a picture of a poster of a naked lady.
Yes.
On the wall here that wasn't there before.
Or this character who has multiple different possible appearances shows up more scantily clad versus being more conservatively clad. This major character, their personality, instead of being friendly, like maybe they're drunk when you find them. If you have, demonstrated by looking at stuff and interacting with stuff in the game, that is like what you are, or, that is an aspect of your personality is addictiveness.
Yeah. And how you remember it.
Yes.
Basically this is playing with the fact that, said this a bunch of times, 100%, what percentage of memories are fake? 100, right? Like you've never remembered something exactly how it happened.
Right.
Just deal with it. It is just true. And we all do this. It's just taking that thing, the real thing about human psychology and exaggerating it, not for terror, but again, for like interest.
Yeah.
Like it's just kind of interesting. Like it's not
to keep you ill at ease. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit uneasing, and mostly just like something I intellectually appreciate. Like, oh, that's neat.
Yeah. Like, and just like the changes range from fundamental to pretty basic. The story still follows like a broad arc, but like this can impact gameplay. Like certain puzzles are altered. You go into different rooms, different things are available to you depending on how these scores go. It's a really cool system. And to understand, when you read interviews about this, they said like literally everything has a value associated with it.
Yeah. And it's worth talking about. This is actually not just, choices you make, but it's also what you look at. So it's trying to get like a subconscious, subconscious, conscious kind of read of you. Yeah. So like if you spend a bunch of time looking at boobies, as the player, because you're playing a video game and it's like, you look at the boobies, not because you're, necessarily a horny gamer American, but just because, and you have nothing else to do.
Right.
It's a cutscene where I can control where I look, and that's it.
Yeah.
But it actually cares about that stuff, and it ends up being kind of weirdly meta, because it's like a thing, if I'm stuck in a first person mode in a video game and I have there's nothing to look at, there's nothing interesting, I can just move my cursor. I will look at stuff I think makes my avatar more funny. Like I will just be like, this conversation with this doctor is much more funny if I can't stop staring at his crotch, because I'm kind of bored, because You know, I can sit down and watch a cutscene just fine, but if you're
Yeah.
leaving, it's the same reason why in Half-Life 2, I try to climb the shelves
Yes.
in the background while people are explaining the teleporter or whatever. It's like, well, I need something to do.
Yeah.
You know, so you'll do that, and then the game actually pays attention to it. It cares about that stuff, and it's kind of neat.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
It's not just about the content too; it's about the pace as
Yeah.
well. Like it is, it is paying attention to like how seriously are you taking the search, right? Like,
Yeah.
are you stopping and dicking around with every little thing?
Yes.
You know, just the things related to that. It's an incredibly neat, incredibly comprehensive system that is absolutely the core of this game.
Yeah, it's the thing that makes this worth talking about, I think.
Yes.
If it wasn't in here, I would say we do a different Silent Hill game. So
Right.
and it's just very interesting too, again, the meta sense, because it is like something that's damning you for video game behavior. You know, like not being committed to the search and trying to look in. That's what you do when you're playing a video game. It has nothing to do with whether you're role playing.
Yeah.
But your avatar is judged based on how well the player role plays this different situation, which is just really interesting.
Yeah.
Because it is trying to break the fourth wall. It's not just what happens to the character. It's also trying to say like, hey, this happens to you. You know, like at the end it says this is what you're like, the player. And this fell down for me pretty hard.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it's
Because
like, you know, you're afraid of confrontation. I'm like, no, I'm not. you know, I'll fight anybody who fucking says that. You know, but it's a neat trick. It's a cool idea that I think it wasn't quite able to do. It's batting a little bit above its weight class.
as a first throw, though, I don't know. Like,
yeah, as a first throw, interesting, not bad.
You know, and I like this. This fits in with the series. You know, remember Silent Hill 2, how it handled its endings. You know, it gave you different endings depending on how you treated Maria, or like how self-destructively you played. You know, it paid attention to like what inventory items you looked at. So like this as a continuation of that is also really satisfying as like a fan of the series.
Yeah, it's a neat idea. So the changes how NPCs look, changes how enemies look, you know, which is cool.
Yeah, I like
the actual the raw shocks will look different depending on things, and it disguises it because you think, oh, there's a new monster. You know, it looks like this is just a new creature, but no, it's always the same creature.
Right.
It's just you know what
it's always the same behavior, but it modifies itself again. You know, like fitting into the series. You know, the creatures were always in some form or fashion a manifestation of, you know, either an important person in the town or you yourself. You know, you brought the patient demons into this. You brought the nurses into this. Here, it's just doing that for the player as well. And these designs are all really cool. And what's also cool is it's not just like modal. It's not like, okay, you know, all of them are going to be sexy now. It can mix and match them too. So you can have like sexy ones that are also abstract. Like it is looking at the entire like splat chart of them. Yeah. So like 4 different mutations that you can get. Like if you have a high sexual score, it'll be like, you know, curvy and feminine. High addiction makes them misshapen and covered in tumors, which is pretty cool. Low friendliness score, like if you're just a dick, makes them appear emaciated and they have these chunks missing from them. And if you're Mr. Eye on the prize, I love this design the most. That's the one that I get the most often when I play this, is the abstract ones, which has them cut into weird ribbon-like spirals, like their body isn't all connected to each other, and different parts of them kind of look like statues. You know, really good. Which of these did you end up getting?
You know, they change throughout the game. I think that I never saw the addiction or friendliness ones. I think I started sexual and ended abstract.
Gotcha.
And that probably had to do with being eyes on the prize because I was sick of these chase sequences and ready for the game to be over. Right, so I was, you know, kind of rushing. At that point. I never saw the low friendliness ones, and I never saw the high addiction ones. Right. Maybe in the beginning there was some addiction because I think in the beginning I didn't realize until afterwards, but like I looked at the bottle of booze or whatever, and it started me on the alcohol. And on the opening quiz, I said like, yeah, I'll drink from time to time, and that puts you on the alcoholic path.
Right.
So, you know, as we mentioned, this is something that's trying to say something about you, the player, but it's also the avatar you're controlling because Twist, what you're doing is you're controlling Cheryl's memory of Harry. You were in a therapy session. Cheryl is now 25 years old, and Harry died in that car crash.
Yes.
So this is basically you coming to terms with the man that your father was. which is what you're playing in the game.
Yeah. When you're playing as Harry, you are her conception of her father, who she never really knew, because 7-year-old, how much can you really know your parents? And you start out as the hero searching for her, which is what a 7-year-old might consider their father to be. Then the entirety of the game is going through the intervening 18 years and picking up new information and picking up traits until when you arrive at the, at the therapy session as Harry in the ending, you are what he, quote, actually was.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. And that's what the game is about.
Yeah.
So the chase sequences play into this, even though I do think that they're garbage and should have been cut. These are, the freezing is your mind freezing up because you've been told something you don't want to hear. And then the raw shocks are supposed to be your personal sensors trying to stop you, Harry, from reaching you, which is symbolically you coming to terms with what your father was.
Yes. Yeah. And you can see this too, like, it is, the you died cutscene is not necessarily the enemies hurting you. All they really do is jump on you, bring you down, and then they start like caressing you.
It's a snuggle puzzle. Puddle. Snuggle puddle.
Snuggle pile. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just them sitting around. It's a love-in,
Yeah. But then you just wake up back at the start of the sequence. There is no death really implied.
Yeah. And the things you're finding initially, it feels like you are just learning about this town and all the various NPCs. But a lot of the things you're finding, these stories are actually thinly veiled stories about Cheryl. When I was reading about this, it seems like there are a couple of these that feel contradictory. In the moment, this is what I assumed was going on. And I think that is what's intentional. I don't know what's an editing error and what is actually a problem.
There are some of them that happen to people around her. Like the stuff in the woods didn't necessarily happen to her.
Yeah.
It was just a party that she was at where a bunch of stuff went bad.
Yeah, but bad things happen. So this is, you're getting what it feels like. You're just getting these stories of these people in the town. We should talk about how you get those. Because I also don't like this as a thing. I feel like this is a chore.
Yeah.
You find ghosts, like you find little distortions in the air, and then you take a photo of it. It becomes a ghost, and then you get a text message or a voicemail. I hate this.
Yeah.
Like this feels like an annoying chore. Just
it's hot and cold. It's not fun.
Audio. Yeah. Let me find an audio log. Like going through the interface to take photos is really a pain in the dick.
Yeah.
And it sucks because the phone is otherwise a joy. Like the way you can call every phone number in the game.
It's so good.
I love it. Yeah. Like absolutely love it. I adore it. I think it's really clever. I think it's really fun. The way that I have to use the camera, just suck my entire ass. Like just eat my whole ass, dude. Like I hate it. The hidden ending with UFO thing. I was just like, that sounds so tedious and dumb.
Yeah.
Like what a horrible gameplay mechanic that is. So just take the entire ass, like put it on Lazy Susan and serve yourself a slice, because I am not interested in that. So this is, and I was doing it because I wanted the story.
Right.
And I I had that moment where I was like, oh, I can just read these on fucking wiki.
Yeah.
Like, what if I just read all these in aggregate at the end?
It'd be fine. It'd be fine. Yeah. So, like, not all of them are based on pictures. Some of them are just based on proximity. But what'll happen is you will walk in and you will hear radio static while you were in the entire room. And it will be as loud as it can be when you are in the half of the room that the object of interest is at. And there is no more feedback. And you have to stand next to and look at the object that will explode with the psychic energy or whatever. It is a very bad hot and cold game.
Yeah. Real bummer to get something that is actually the content of which is neat.
Yeah.
And, important to the story. Yeah.
Yeah. Adding the cell phone makes this, I mean, it's a good addition, with the exception of, that the way that they were
the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything with the camera, I think, is lame.
Yeah.
Everything with the map, everything with the phone is great. So when you finally, as Imagination Harry, get to Cheryl, that's you arriving in reality. Like you actually walk into the psychiatrist's office, which is awesome. And then the ending kind of articulates based on what Cheryl thought of you, whether she can accept who you are and what that is, what that looks like.
Right.
And you get these kind of endings that are basically a true memory. Of what your dad was like. Yeah.
Throughout the game, the game opens with like a VHS home movie. And when it reaches a certain point, it always rewinds, and you're watching it over and over again. Cheryl saying, "I love my daddy." The ending, like the actual ending after, like right before the credits, after she leaves therapy, is showing what else was on that tape.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a Price is Right rerun. Yeah, that her daddy was on.
So do
And won.
America.
Yeah. He got $1 in the final showcase showdown, but flubbed it. So it's the
It's the way it goes.
he said no whammies so many times, but what happens when he got a whammy? Then he got chased to the ice zone by the whammies, and it's no good. I got the ending where the dad and the mom fight, and then the dad explains like, hey, we don't love each other, but we still love you.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what I got as well.
Yeah, that's but we'll talk about the other ones and stuff. So this is the second Western developed Silent Hill game. After the same team made Silent Hill Origins for PSP, which is by reputation not good. I have not played it.
I just recently streamed it. It's not great.
Yeah. People do not like it.
No. Konami had a lot of pots in the fire at this point for the Silent Hill series. They didn't really know which way to go with it, and what ultimately became Silent Hill Shattered Memories was these 3 different proposals for different games that they just kind of wrapped up together. Any of these would have been interesting, like Brahms PD, the rail shooter one. Like, I don't know, I'd probably be down. The Umbrella Chronicles is cool.
Yeah, we're both defenders of those Resident Evil Wii games, I think.
Yeah. But like it alternated action segments, where you were shooting stuff, and then the therapy segments, which would impact the action segments. So you have that a little bit there. You had another one which was a little bit more conventional. Was codenamed Cold Heart, which had de-emphasized combat. Combat was still there, but that had the snow and ice. There was like a body temperature.
Survival.
Yeah.
It was like a survival game. And the third one was just remaking the first game.
Right.
Which they wanted to do because it was the 10th anniversary, and it would have been a much more straight up, or less straight up rather, remake and more like the movie.
Right.
So instead, though, they did this, which is kind of took elements of all of them. Turnaround was really quick. It was announced in May of 2009 and released that December. So very quick. I mean, I'm sure work had been done before then.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it wasn't developed in 7 months. But
it would be ridiculous. This would be on epic suffering.
Yeah. The team, kind of the intention was the team wanted to start fresh and make this entry point for new fans, but also they serve the previous fans.
Yes,
as well. It's not disrespectful to the legacy.
Yeah, as a fan, I feel serviced. Like every location from the first game is present here, like right down to really minor ones as well. So like in the first game, you go to a church that's called the Balkans Church. Here, that's a nightclub that one of the characters works at.
Yeah.
And there are these echoes and rhymes that happen with all the different characters. What they do with Dahlia, I think, is really cool. I was super into seeing how these different elements were going to be incorporated and changed on my first go through, and every go through, I am just real happy with the decisions that they made.
Yeah, lots of Easter eggs.
Yes.
The music was done by Akira Yamaoka, who did the music and sound design for this again. This is a Silent Hill veteran. This is the last one that he worked on.
Yes. This is, I believe, the last soundtrack that Mary Elizabeth McGlinton worked on as well, doing vocals. Really, though, the only mainline Silent Hill that was after this was Downpour, and that used a completely different sound team to its detriment. This is also different because the soundtrack is dynamic, at least in the chase scenes. There had never been dynamic tracks before. So they respond to the action of the chase.
This got the Wii version is the original version. It also got ported to the PSP and PS2. I think you'd lose all that interactivity and it would be really boring without it.
Yeah.
Not so much that I would like, there's actually, I mean, we didn't really talk about this earlier. Like part of the reason I think I didn't like the chase sequences is I never totally got used to how this controlled.
Yeah.
I always felt a little bit like the camera was the wrong distance from my character.
Yeah. It feels really close up.
Yeah, I kept like turning around on accident and because when you turn around, when you get close to something, you leap over it. Like very early on, there's that playground and I kept just like leaping over that waist high fence over and over. And I was like, this is fucking clown college. Like this is happening to me. What am I playing Metal Gear Solid 2? Why do I keep accidentally doing things no one has ever accidentally done in their life? And the whole game, I kind of struggled with it. It was never like pointing the flashlight was smooth. But that was it. Like anytime I was moving my guy in tandem with that, It didn't feel great. Like and it made me wonder whether I would prefer like a more traditional dual stick setup. But then, unlocking a door would be annoying.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't totally know if it like what the trade-off is with that. Have you played the PSP or PS2 versions?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious what they're like.
They're expensive, weirdly enough. I mean, just those systems are easy to emulate. I could get over that, but just like I in the past, I had figured, I don't have the Wii version. That's definitive.
Yeah. Sold pretty well. Got some good reviews. This is like in that 7.8 corridor. Yeah.
Pretty well regarded by fans of the series. Like I don't hear a lot of people who, that's a fan base that is really hard to please. There's not an awful lot of shade thrown at this. I think that it is accepted as like a good departure. I don't know what the circumcision content is or is not in this.
Well, it's weird that the Moyle flashback is extremely weird with the Wiimote.
I know, especially because it's about because the game, with Cheryl. That's weird.
Yeah. But I mean, you're circumcising the memory of her father.
Oh yeah. You
had that memory of your father getting drunk and circumcising himself.
With a cigar cutter. Yeah.
Just
Otto Moyle syndrome.
Yeah.
Fucking yuck, man.
Ow.
So there's no follow-up to this. Elements of the chase system were incorporated into Silent Hill Downpour. And I don't know, this comes out at a weird time in terms of pursuit-based horror games as well. It feels like that would become much more common in the 2010s, shortly after this came out. Like this is a year before Amnesia, which, emphasized pursuit even more than Penumbra, etc. It is a weird inflection point, I think, 2009 in this particular game.
No, and it has I didn't know this going into it, but this is written by Sam Barlow.
Yep.
Who is the dude who did Her Story and Telling Lies, and it makes actually a lot of sense.
It does.
This as a early lead work. He's done.
Yeah. And if you look at his game, his gameography or whatever it is, the list of games he's made, like this is the first kind of standout into more narrative heavy work. Like he was one of the leads on Silent Hill Origins, but his hands were really tied on that to make a pretty traditional Silent Hill horror game. And this is kind of what got him in that direction.
Yeah. As somebody mildly cooler on that guy's games than most of my peers, I dug this.
Yeah.
So this is probably my favorite Sam Barlow game.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough.
You might not be alone in that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm probably not totally alone.
So let's get started. We've got this opening. We've got a home video that's going to recur throughout this. Harry is taking Cheryl to an amusement park. They are putting their heads through a little painting and taking a picture. He is the knight. She is the princess. He's protecting her from the dragon. And she says, "I love my daddy." And then rewinds to watch that over and over again.
Really, really loves her daddy.
Yes.
I want to go to this amusement park pretty bad.
It's pretty good.
Like, I want to go to the dragon and medieval themed amusement park. There's always one the dragon wagon, like dragon themed roller coaster, but an entire theme park. Get out of here. Yeah. Like, I would never look badly on my father if he took me to something like that.
No. One of the best mini golf courses I went to was it was down in Myrtle Beach. As a kid, it was all medieval themed, and there were dragons and fire effects and stuff like that. It's good.
Yeah. Yep.
Into it. But that gives way to the opening credits where we see Dr. Kaufman pre-gaming it.
Yeah, pre-gaming his therapy session. Yeah. Pre-gaming his work, which, understandably, we all do that. I just sat down drinking some scotch before I recorded.
Yeah, no, it's funny, not sad.
Yeah, it's funny, not sad. And Harry drives down a snowy road here. And then Kaufman rings his new patient in and Harry crashes, and I really thought Harry just arrived and he was just gonna walk out and get to go into the therapy and I'm here.
I flipped my vet, but
yeah, I made it. Smash. Gotta get to therapy.
I don't want a late fee. Don't want a late fee.
Smash.
Man.
And it's like, this is in retrospect, this is a pretty big hint that you're not Harry getting therapy because you just got into a car crash.
I know, right?
It's not doing any of the semiotics of flashbacks.
Right.
You know, it's just it'd be really funny if you rolled out of the car and walked into therapy,
head bleeding.
Yeah. Would you like a drink? You know, just. So Kaufman rings his new patient, and his secretary also has to work at night, which is sad. Mm-hmm. Harry passes out after he crashed.
Yes. And this brings us our first therapy section. We're going to go back to where it all began. And Kaufman gives you this short personality test. This sets a couple of starting values. So you get a little bit of what the world, has a little bit of impact on the world design for you, but it's asking pretty basic stuff. Do you make friends easily? Do you drink to relax? How sexually adventurous are you, etc.?
Yeah. Yep. Just yes or no questions. Very simple. Mm-hmm. So when you wake up as Harry, you're in the town streets. It's nighttime. It's snowing. You can't find Cheryl.
Right.
And you're walking around. You can call her name in a Heavy Rain-esque sense, because initially, at least, you are definitely eyes on the prize searching.
Yes.
For her.
You are looking for your little girl, 7 years old, about this tall, dark hair.
Yep.
And the tutorial has you going through this gas station. The entire town is abandoned. There's nobody here. And it gives you, hey, here's your flashlight. Here is how to manipulate optics in the world. And you have what weirdly is a choice. Like if this was a video game, you would just go into every room, but because it is looking at everything, it is testing whether you go to the exit, whether you go to the men's room, or whether you go to the ladies' room.
Yeah. Denton. It is unprofessional to go into the ladies' room
yes.
when you're searching for your daughter. Yeah. And of course, I played it like a video game.
Right.
Like initially, again, talking about that gamer psychographic it's testing, it's interesting because it felt like it was testing how much of a pervert I was, but really it tested how patient I was. Initially I was Linda checking every room, and then at the end I had my eyes on the prize because I was ready for the game to be over. Yeah. And that's what it ended up actually tracking, which has nothing to do with me. Yeah. I guess it does if it was testing your gamer psychographics.
Yeah.
But.
I was worried that because I was playing it for the show that I would get something that was relatively skewed, but my profile at the end felt pretty spot on. So I don't know, but yeah, pass through through a television shop, and you get your first little puzzle here. You have to point you have to bring up the right camera and press the button to release the door that's locked. Yeah.
Yep. Again, just teaching you to use the Wiimote as this kind of physical extension of your hands.
Right.
You get through that. You get to this playground. There's a key to the door for the playground that somebody has hidden in a beer. You're just playing with toys at this point. It feels very manhole, pick up and shake these things.
What's kind of neat about this is it's only a beer can if you show addiction at the start.
Yeah, if you said you wanted to drink.
Yeah, it can if it's just a pop can. That's an option as well.
It's a can of amyl nitrate.
Just some poppers.
Yeah, it's just a popper can.
Loosen up, man.
My duck. So you get out, and depending on, again, this is also a psychographic thing. You can either there's a diner or a bar. Yep. That you can go to here. I did say I drank, but I did get the diner here, so I don't know what's up with that. I went in and we meet our first NPC here, Sybil, who is a police officer, and we know Sybil.
Yeah, Sybil, the police officer from the first game, and you met her in a diner in the first game as well. This is where you woke up. What did Sybil look like for you?
Like a straight up police officer.
Okay.
So a very, I know that she can look like Dangle from Reno 911, basically, like a sexy Dangle, but she just looked like a police officer to me.
Yeah. I had the conservatively dressed one, and she was friendly as well. She was not very abrupt with me. So
no, she was friendly with me either, even though this is kind of where, as much as this game it fails to be scary, the unease comes from kind of a Lynchian sense of offness to things. And this is where that kind of begins. So she, you're getting that kind of that offness because she's looks at your ID and she's like, hey, you live really close to here.
Yeah, maybe she's home.
You know, maybe and at no point do you ever say like, hey, why are you alone in the diner? Nobody's working here. Or why have I not seen anybody? Why, you know, at no point does she say like, you know, you never like, I was in an accident. You know, we're never going to call the hospital. Like nothing makes sense.
Well, you say, hey, I was in an accident. And there is like the main way that Sybil's attitude toward you can change is if she is concerned that like, hey, you hit your head and you are obviously unwell, or she can say, hey, this isn't adding up and you're committing crimes. Yeah.
But she doesn't do anything about it regardless.
Right.
You know, she's not acting like a civil servant. You can call 911 before this, you know, and you're not getting good results from that.
Right.
You know, either they don't hear you or it's out of service. I think you can do it multiple times during the game. You get different results. You know, the lines are overwhelmed or whatever because there's a storm, but it doesn't add up to the player.
Yeah.
Something's wrong.
Because you're calling from hell, all the other person hears as a telemarketer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you live close there. She's like, hey, maybe your daughter's there. You know, your phone rings, but then the person on the other end hung up. And a lot of this stuff gets, you know, chalked up to the storm.
Right. It's a bad storm. Like there are snowdrifts outside that are, you know, up the size, you know, the size of buildings. Which is pretty effective. I don't know, coming from a place that gets bad snowstorms. You know, I'm scared of those. You know, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. It's a way to make walls.
Yes.
To make it so you can't have direct paths, but at least it's diegetic.
Yes. So you have to pass back through this playground, and this is where you get your first echo photo tutorial. There's a shadow on one of the swings that you take a picture of.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you get back on the street. You're trying to get back home. You get a call from Cheryl, and Cheryl warns you. Says like, listen, you can't fight. You need to run. Telling you basically there's no combat in this game. And then the world freezes over and we get our first chase sequence.
Yes, the walls of ice stretch up into the sky. There's some good Doctor Strange stuff going on, especially as like huge gushers of water have just burst up parts of the infrastructure and cars, and they're frozen into these sculptures above you. Pretty good.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings on it. Like I like it, but you're not really meant to like. It has no relation to the world. It still feels like I've just been transported to a video game level. Yeah, a
little bit
to me.
But I like it aesthetically, at least at this point. You know, the way that the world is destroyed around you. You know, it's stuff that is meant to be seen out of the corner of your eye.
I think I would like it if it was I went through this space, I dug the space, and now I've seen how it's transformed.
Same. Yeah.
Instead, it feels unrelated to the main game. Yeah. In a way that really, you know, added too much distance for me. Like I think it is a cool effect that should be used elsewhere.
I hear you.
Yeah. So you just flee. You run through this school building. It's fairly easy to get turned around, but this is a more simple maze than later. You know, you're introduced to the flare mechanic. You find one of those moving through an empty swimming pool. And you can use those to just get them off your nuts for a little while. Yeah, just a little oh shit button, buy you some breathing room. You're climbing over stuff as well. The game does something, you know, pretty true, I think. That's good. It's good design where ledges and things that you are supposed to interact with are lined with blue light. Yeah. So like if you are meant to climb up this, you know, this is not just a piece of scenery, you know, it will be lit up so you know to run toward it. Yeah. So at least initially these are not very frustrating or difficult. Right. Which is probably good. Yeah. But eventually you just climb over a fence and you drop on Levin Street. And things are back to normal, at least, you know, as normal as they can get when you are a dead figment. And the focus shifts back to Kaufman and it's coloring time. Yeah. This is really great. Did you know that this would have an effect? Not initially, no. Okay. Like I didn't know until after it had the effect. So he asks you some questions about family and friends, and he says, all right, well, we're going to do a little bit of an exercise here. Here is a coloring book page called Happy Family. It's a picture of a 2-story house. There's a garage, there's a car, and there is a husband and wife. And you have some colors available to you, and you just kind of, you know, fill stuff out. And I'll let you explain what the twist is here. Oh, well, it looks like dog shit because you're using the Wiimote. Of course. So you can't color within the lines. But you make, you make your scribs. You can. I did. I couldn't, not with the Wiimote. Okay. Like, yeah, it was a very awkward drawing position for me. Yeah. You color in this house, and then when you switch back, when you go to the house, it is the way you colored it. Yes. So if you colored it, which is really cool foreshadowing, very very subtle. Yeah. So if you color the outside of the house purple and the front door, you know, bright yellow, guess what? It's there. It's the Joker house. The Joker game. Joker's comma
property values.
Yeah.
No, and like even the clothes on the family members. Do you know the second order twist?
What is that?
So the second order twist, the attitude of the people who answer the door is informed by how quickly, basically how seriously you took it.
Oh yeah.
So like if you just like, scribble some colors all over the place and get out of it to go past it, they're going to be really abrupt with you and you'll be really abrupt with them. If you take your time, like they're going to be pretty understanding and try and work it out with you until ultimately they're like, hey, you need to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
It also determines like how soon they call the police. Yeah.
Yeah. Because this is one of the ways you can get like the rudeness up.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do that, but I knew that it was tracking how long you did it.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you go there, it's not your family.
No.
We've lived here for a long time. Like, we have a daughter, but she's, upstairs or whatever. And they're like, and you think that it's your daughter that they've stolen, but they've just been like watching TV.
No. What year is it?
It's very, it's very obviously things are not right.
Yeah.
And eventually they do call the police.
Yeah.
But they can be two of those. They can either be rude or kind.
Mm-hmm.
Sybil shows up, who probably should have driven you there as the head injury drunk in the middle of the storm in the first place.
Yeah.
And she wants to take you to the station. And again, just like, not nearly, even if she's a little concerned, not nearly concerned enough, which is
no. You should be maybe not like in custody, like, am I being detained, but she should be a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. Like forcibly gone to the hospital. Like, hey, you're wandering around, you're going to freeze to death. This is how, the end of Scrooged happens. Like you're going to end up frozen in the streets, head injury dad.
Yeah. Oh. So, but yeah, just saying like, hey, my dad suffered a head injury and he was never the same after this. Obviously it could be either that or like, I'm not going to, whatever. I'm just going to take you to the station. Regardless though, you're in the car and you're looking at stuff. You can, mess around with some dials and things. Ultimately the car gets overwhelmed with snow. She can't see, the wipers can't keep up with it. And she gets out to see where she is. And I love this because she doesn't come back. It is up to you to open the back of the car and get out and see what's up.
Yeah, which you never do that in real life.
No.
But video game, yes. And this is you at the edge of the forest. There's only one way forward. It's a pretty linear forest. Mm-hmm. We start getting those echo calls. We get one about this girl named Jackie who's stranded at a party and is getting skeevy vibes from the dudes here. Mm-hmm. This game is like mildly fast and loose with some of the adult stuff, which definitely happened. Like I don't think it's like disrespectful with it. It happens pretty early. Yeah, kind of before I understood the game's perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, you go through, there are a couple of these cabins that are obviously just party cabins. I don't know if that changes. But yeah, you're getting details about just people who are here. Like there's, there are a couple of messages just about, a guy who got way too drunk or he OD'd on some meds he shouldn't have taken and, froze to death outside. Just bad things. Teen disasters is what we call this movie.
Yeah, the Freshman Part 2, the future Verb Pipe albums is what's going on in these cabins.
Real bullish on the future of the Verve Pipe.
Yeah. This game has a huge Verve Pipe. Of course, at the end, it just told me I liked the Verve Pipe. It was really weird. Like the psychoanalysis was way off. And I was like, no, I like the Verve. God.
Yeah, completely different.
Yeah, totally different.
Not that different. So you pass through a pumping station. There's a text message about, some guys who spiked a girl's drink so much that she died. The story here is that this is a party that Cheryl was at. She fell into into the bad crowd in high school.
Horrible teens.
Yes. And these woods are mostly empty. I found myself getting turned around quite a bit, had to rely on the navigation a lot. Yeah. And when you get to a large spooky lodge with lots of taxidermy animals, Sybil calls. She's coming after you. You should not have gotten out of the police car.
Yeah. She was still pretty nice to me about this, but she was worried that I got out.
Yeah.
She's coming because, hey, you shouldn't, head injury dad, you should not be out in the snow.
Massive headwind, Harry.
Yeah. So, hey, there you go. So you get to the cabin with this bloody door. You need to get the key from, this bloody wallet. This girl who's been bloodied again, bad teens.
Yeah.
And inside there's this kind of apparition, this shadow apparition crouching at the far end. When you alert her, she runs. And this is like a little ghost little girl.
Yeah.
You know, it's a tiny spirit child. Yeah. And now we got a chase sequence. The world freezes over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is a place where Cheryl hid from the
teen
disaster teens. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The world freezes and you've got to run through this forest. It constricts the possibility space and makes it more corridor-y, but you know, I ended up running around in circles quite a bit, and you have to run to a different part of the forest park that you have not been in before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you know, you run through it. You eventually run to this cabin where you see a family of ice sculpture of a family. Mm-hmm. And when we get to this, we hear this echo from one side of the conversation. This mom wants to come home because the dad started drinking.
This can change. I think I got this scene because I had a higher addiction score at this point. Mm-hmm. The calls later, the complaint about the dad was that he was spoiling Cheryl.
Yeah. I think I got some lasciviousness here. I think I got some dad philandering
Gotcha.
going on here at this point, so I must have been too horned up. But it all ended up evening out in the end.
Yeah,
this is still pretty early on when I'm just, you know, pushing the seams.
Mm-hmm. But like at the end of the call, you hear the sound of like a toy piano. And like it is playing a tone and it is making different farm animal sounds. The puzzle solution is to find that toy piano that's just down by where the kid is and play that same tune. This is actually an echo of a similar, but though much more difficult piano puzzle in Silent Hill 1.
Yeah. When you do so, the second part of the call comes through. The daughter had cut herself on broken glass.
Right.
Kind of through that. So you run through go through this, you get to this other lodge, you run through it, the world thaws out, and you reach a bridge near this overlook here, the Bryant Overlook.
Yeah.
There's an abandoned car here, and there's a scarf and a prom corsage on the passenger seat, which, you know, bad teens. Take a photo, and we hear a young girl warning a man who's pressuring her into sex.
Yes.
She's like, I'll call my dad. So, you know, maybe not Cheryl. She won't call her dad.
Right. Or, you know, maybe she thinks her dad's still alive. Just
maybe.
You know, pretty twisted around the axle on the whole dad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next little biome here is Midwich High School. In the original game, it was an elementary school. This should also be a hint for anybody who's played the first game. But you hop over a fence and you end up in this football field. And Sybil calls saying, hey, the gym is sometimes used as an emergency shelter. You know, Harry thinks, okay, I should head that way because, you know, she might have gone there.
Yeah. Yep. We cut over to Kaufman.
And he says Kaufman, a true thing.
Yeah, he does say a true thing that's incredibly inappropriate, like very leading for a psychologist. You know, I say if you want to screw somebody up, send him to high school. So he starts saying archetypes. Like he basically names the Breakfast Club, and you nod or shake your head depending on which Breakfast Club you are.
Yeah.
Another hint where he says slut is one of the archetypes, and you know, if you think you're Harry, you know, yes, of course, you know. I mean, there's no such thing as a slut, right? But if there are women sluts, there can be men sluts. But it's not something that's commonly applied to men.
Yes.
So kind of foreshadowing here.
Yeah.
The bad psychologist is calling his patient possibly a slut right. after trying to lead her into sex earlier because it's fucking a horny drunk pervert.
Yeah.
The worst.
Power dynamics. Michael, power dynamics.
The worst.
Yeah. This this was tough for me because I wasn't any of those things in high school. So it's like no. I was just a person. Like those are media. Like, you know, those are things from stories, Mr. Kaufman.
Yeah. What I know about you in high school in terms of being like a mathlete and a choir kid. I think that other people would probably describe you as a nerd in high school. I'm not saying that necessarily you were, but I think
like
that,
like nerd wasn't one of them. It was like slacker, like stuff like
freak. Like slacker, freak, slut, jock. Yeah, I guess that's true. There wasn't like a dork. I thought there was one that was like closest to that.
Yeah. And not that I saw. I would have answered it honestly, but yeah.
Well, I was a choir Adonis.
I was a choir Adonis who knew trivia.
Yeah, it was extremely cool. What are you talking about? I was a brain jock. Song jock. Yeah. So there's song jocks, brain jocks, math jocks. Yeah. You know?
Dancing's hard,
activity. You make your money with your body.
Did you say yes to any of them there?
I think I said freak because I was probably I was one of those kids, hung out with a bunch of those kids.
Oh yeah.
Like in the freaks and geeks sense, like the kids who were into not the band geeks but the band geeks, like those kind of kids.
Yeah.
So I think I said yes to that.
You gotcha. Yeah.
I don't know what psychographic that mapped on me onto, though. I didn't notice a change.
No, I have no idea. This is one that is really hard to figure out what it maps to. Even the second part of it where he has you lay out your perfect school day, and I
mean, obviously, if you're like, first thing in the morning, sex ed, like, that could map.
Right.
What does study hall map onto?
Answer yes or no. Do you like the smell of gasoline? What kind of bird? What kind of bird would you want to be? What kind of animal? A nurse shark? A lawyer bird?
So you lay that out. Then we get back to Harry. You move through, you got this key, you go through the janitor's area. You get back outside, you're trying to make your way to that shelter.
Yeah.
By these bike racks, and you get a message about kids playing the choking game.
Yeah.
Kids are constantly eating Tide Pods and choking each other.
Mm-hmm. Going to rainbow parties. Yeah. A bunch of other stuff that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But you venture off campus a little bit, and you can pass through a fast food joint that abuts against a gentleman's club. And here you get you can get a voicemail, this woman crying on a sofa, saying like, this customer hit her because she looks so much like her daughter. Apparently this was like a, Cheryl doing a Laura Palmer kind of thing.
Yeah. There's in downtown Portland, there is a Mexican restaurant that shares a wall and a bathroom with a strip club. Mm-hmm. So when you are in this Mexican restaurant, when you go to the bathroom, you walk into a fully functioning, like, active strip club to go to the bathroom. It's really wild. Like, it just feels like you open up into a totally different world. Like, the music is different. There are naked women everywhere.
Yeah.
And then you go back and you, like, finish your quesadilla or whatever.
Yeah.
Pretty wild. It's like, yeah.
Why didn't you take a quesadilla to the girls, Gary?
I should have. I should have just tucked one into the G-string.
Yeah.
Just like a series of quesadillas splayed out like ones. just
give her a wedge. Give her a fucking wedge of your dia, man.
Yeah. Here, have a slice of dia, ma'am. Do you eventually get back to the school? Like, you're kind of making your way. And this is all pretty contrived, the way you have to go off campus to get back on it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just snow. You see the ghost of the girl. You see the ghost girl on the bench. She runs away, and you get a text message. And it's a girl in the story whose boyfriend breaks up with her because she's too closed off.
Yes.
So again, this trauma has wide-reaching effects.
Mm-hmm.
You eventually get into the school, and you can move through different places. There's a planetarium and the art studio,
mm-hmm.
Which I also choose the art studio because, of course, I did.
Yeah.
And there's a little miniature puzzle here.
Yeah. This is neat. I think this is about as good as the physical manipulation gets. Mm-hmm. As far as these puzzles go, because there's an easel that has like a still life sketch, and you have to take the different objects and arrange them as they are in the still life. And there's a light that is casting a shadow, and to unlock the door, you have to call the number that the shadow reveals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, that unlocks the door. At this point, I got a text from Dahlia as well, but it was not I don't think I got a sexy picture here. I do not recall exactly what I got, but I don't remember getting this.
Yeah. This was a huge thing for me when I first played this because Dahlia's a villain, right?
Yeah.
And to have her texting you in a very familiar way. So for me, she texts a picture. She's, standing on a bed, and she's dressed up like a punk. She's like, hey, like my new look. Mm-hmm. That was the version of Dahlia that I got. Kind of not the overly horned one, but the one who was like, hey, it's you and me forever kind of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't. Maybe you were just remembering it differently. Like I did not think of it as sexy necessarily. But yeah, Dahlia is interesting in this. Plays into some stuff with her father having an affair.
Yeah.
So you eventually get to the gym, but it's not a shelter. It's set up for a reunion, and there's just one person there at the reunion, which is I love that. Like that's a very creepy. Like what if there's a high school reunion and only I showed up?
Yep.
I like that a lot. And a woman walks out and sings her song, and it is a cover of what is this song? Why can't I remember it? It's gonna drive me crazy if I don't remember it, so I'm gonna find it.
Okay.
Here, you continue.
Yeah, I will continue. But yeah, she comes out and sings the song. It can actually be, I think, like 3 different variations, depending on your psychographic profile. And she can be dressed up in a bunch of different ways. She can either be in comfy clothes. She can be prom queen, dressed in like a prom kind of dressed, or dressed in a very slinky, like very revealing nighttime gown kind of deal. And she comes down and introduces herself as Michelle Valdez. This is the only character in the game who does not map onto somebody else. It's her. No, second, it is her, and it is the barmaid that you can find if you go into the bar instead of the diner at the beginning of the game.
Yeah. She's singing Always on My Mind.
Gotcha.
Which is an Elvis song that I know mostly from the excellent Pet Shop Boys cover of it.
Makes sense.
And it's a real, it's a real creepy, very Twin Peaksy, obviously. Like the version she was doing for me was like a mildly dissonant Torch song.
Yeah. Smoky lounge kind of thing. If your psychographic inventory or whatever is highly sexual or highly outgoing, she will have, and she has that corresponding personality. She will do more of like a pop kind of presentation of it.
Yeah. The like the Pet Shop Boys version.
Yeah.
The Pet Shop Boys trapped in Silent Hill.
I think they'd do okay.
Yeah, I love that. I'd play that game. Play the fuck out of that game. That's how they got to reboot the series. That's what PT was.
Yeah. PT, PET, Shop Boys.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And she's just like, it's supposed to be a reunion, but I'm the only one here. You don't really question this because dream logic. And you go through, and she kind of like, a little bit of a bad girl. Like you're going to break into the principal's office to find this information. Yeah. Here. And this is a good puzzle, actually, I think. Yeah. Because you have his computer's password protected. So you can't, guess the password. It's not like there's, it's an 0451 where the safe combination's on the bathroom mirror. You have to go through the password recovery steps and answer his security questions based on the things around his life.
I want to camp a little bit more on what you're doing here, and especially the detail that leads you into that. So she's talking and saying hey, I went to this high school, and you say, hey, I'm looking for a Cheryl Mason. She says, well, there was somebody a couple years ahead of me in high school. Like if she's here, she might be here for this reunion or whatever. She takes you over to a wall, like a photo wall, and points out just this picture of a lone, sad girl who looks very much like Heather. Like Heather from Silent Hill 3, hair a little bit grown out, and bleached. So the introduction of Heather here, and when you find all these details about the principal and get into her profile, it also reveals, hey, it's Cheryl Heather Mason. In the original continuity, she only went by Heather because they're running from the cult. And that's, Cheryl was just a name that she didn't use. So that is another hint for you that okay, this is continuing. There may be something more about this, that she, the actual Cheryl that exists and that I'm going after is the grown up version.
Yeah. And it's weird. You're like, oh, that's not a super common name. This, obviously gives you pause. So that's why you're going in to get the files. Yeah. I missed that point. You do the computer reset, puzzle. Which is generally good. And we find out again, even though it is my bitch of an ex-wife, it's not, it's a little bit cranky. Oh, my best friend, my dog, I love him. He's so good. Yeah. It does feel like somebody, I don't know, just vamping. Yeah.
The place my life as I knew it ended, the picture of Hawaii from the honeymoon. Yeah.
Yeah. But once you actually get in there, we do find out that the student that Michelle's talking about is indeed your Cheryl.
Yes.
She moved off 11th Street. She no longer lives there. That's why, in your mind, you're like, oh, that's why that family was there. Actually, it's because of time stuff. Yeah. She's in the shady part of town.
Yeah.
You try to call her number, and Dahlia answers.
Yeah.
Weird.
Hey, fuck off. Wait, what? And then the world freezes.
Yeah. Yep. So you have to run back around the school to get back, to get back to where you were. When you get to that the waypoint, the door is barred.
Yes.
Because women are in front of it and they're frozen, blocking it.
Yeah. And this is the first time the game has you venture back out into a chase sequence to get to 3 particular places. You get messages. You have to go and take these photographs of these embarrassing scenes before the door will clear. And it sets waypoints here. And you go back around, you make another lap, and it's like, 2 figures talking in a hallway, somebody taking a shower, and something else I forget. But all of them are just blackmail photos, like pictures that the mean girls have taken of Heather in order to like basically extort her and bully her.
Yeah. Go fuck your selfie.
Yes.
So we eventually get through that, makes the women shatter on the door so you can get through it. And you step outside the no longer ice world. Michelle is there, and she's like, "Hey, I'll take you. Let's get inside. Like take you to this club where I work. Harry's never heard of that, and then we'll drive there. Like I'll give you a ride.
Yes,
to Cheryl's new address.
Yeah, your interaction with Michelle can change depending on how horned up you are. For me, because I was high in friendliness, it was more like her talking about her bad relationship with her boyfriend, John, this long distance relationship, and the two of them kind of bonding over a shared love of churros and that, chocolate sauce that you dip churros into. Yeah.
I definitely had her talking about John, but I was giving her advice about relationships in general. Like we did not bring up churros. No. It was about, I think that at some point she talks about, like she asked you a philosophical question about like relationships.
Gotcha.
And it wasn't like love at first sight, but it was something like that. And you're like, yeah, of course. Like my guy went all in on it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what psychographic that was.
Probably like high family value.
It's probably a high family value one.
Yeah.
Because that's what my ending corresponded to, I think.
Yeah.
At least in part. You get to the club. And Michelle asked you to go up to her room to grab her car keys. Here is a thing where you can fuck up, change your psychographics a lot by like digging through her underwear and flipping through her medicine cabinet and all this stuff. You can be a real monster up here.
Yeah. I messed with her cookies. She has a cookie jar that you can try and open up, and she yells at you like, "Hey, don't mess around with my cookies." What's that?
It's a metaphor. It's like basically digging your hand around the clit jar, dude. And you know it.
Gary, can I ask you a favor? Never say clit jar again.
I said no. No more favors that restrict my free speech.
I will have the government enforce this. Man.
Hey, blame Sam Barlow.
Yeah.
For making that very obvious metaphor.
You get a text up here, and it the content depends on. It's always from Dahlia, but for me, because she was just like the exciting adventurous one. She's bored, but she can say like thirsty or horny. It doesn't say horny. She doesn't come straight out and say "Mama, horny, Michael." But
but she does imply it.
Yes.
If you read between the lines, Mama is indeed horny. Yes. You come back down, and Michelle is having a drink. She asks about your wife, and you get upset.
Yeah,
at this point.
What do I know? Nobody has talked about my wife so far. That is not the way it's supposed to go. Yeah. Let's talk about you.
Yeah. Yep. So you go to the bathroom to splash some water on your face, and when you come back out, Michelle has been replaced by Dahlia.
Yep.
Very confusing.
Here in the flesh, and like in the game, you meet her in the balcony for the first time, whether it is a church or whether it is a nightclub like this. Harry is incredibly confused, and Dahlia, again, depending on the personality that she has, is either kind of like rolling with it and saying like, hey, yeah, you've been like this before, or, completely focused on either sex or drinking.
Yeah. So, she's going to drive you. She's still, you still need a ride. You get in her SUV and she's driving like a crazy person.
Yeah.
And she's really mad because you're like acting like you don't remember who she is. And she's like, are you fucking kidding me? And at first it's like the characterization here is really great. Like at first she's like kind of like, oh, she's kind of teasing you about it. But then there's like genuine hurt.
Yeah.
There. She's like, oh, you're somebody, I'm this person and you're somebody who I used to think was like a lot of fun to hang around.
Yeah.
And then it actually gets become, get kind of the core of it.
Yeah. She's saying like, hey, do you remember who Sid and Nancy are? And revealing this like, oh, you named her tits. They're Sid and Nancy.
Yeah. Extremely weird.
Yeah.
Especially considering what happened to Sid Vicious and Nancy.
Yeah.
Not a bright future for them tits.
No.
But one of them will be played by Gary Oldman at some point. So,
so good for her.
So good for that. Yeah.
One of her breasts will say incredibly inappropriate things about the guilt of Roman Polanski. Yeah.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
Sorry, I went more depressing with it.
Okay. So as you're moving through, you will get to this drawbridge that is up, and you have to get out and go to the control room. This, to me, I find this to be a really weird puzzle.
Yeah.
This feels like it's from a different video game. Like I was just doing a bunch of weird psychological stuff that had to do with like tits. And now it's like, remember to hit the green light twice and then the red light once. But if the red light goes off twice, then the blue light will go off no times. Like it becomes this really dumb logic puzzle. Yeah. And I kind of really hate this.
It's really bad. It's like,
small, but it's annoying.
Yeah. It's small. It's short. Like it is completely counterintuitive. I think it is to make sure that you call a phone number from inside the world. And reach this drawbridge operator named Jimmy Capra. And do this is like, okay, the red light means the right lever, the blue light means the middle one, and then you just have to respond. That's basically like Simon, but the inputs are different than the outputs. And not how any bridge ever has worked.
No, it is a silly thing to take this and make it as hard and complicated, like make it a puzzle. So
the bridge is down, and you go back down, and you go into probably my favorite sequence in the game. One of them. It is very high up there. It is kind of one of the only times that the game gets scary for me. So you get back in the car and you're driving across. Dahlia has been saying, "Oh yeah, I can take you to your place. We can see Cheryl." And this is where some more information comes out. Where she says like, yeah, this is not the first time you've acted weird. I can kind of roll with this. But she says like, I've only ever like heard of Cheryl. I've never actually met her.
Yeah. Because I'm a side piece.
Well, no, this is her.
Oh yeah.
This is what. Okay, so this is what Cheryl thinks her mom was like when Harry and her were dating before they had her.
Yeah. I remember now. Yeah, this is the person who's being psychoanalyzed projection of basically like slut shaming her mom.
Yes,
and stuff. Yeah. So you're having this kind of argument, like you don't. To you, this doesn't make sense, but you're walking in this context, and you're having this argument as it's going on. As this is happening, the Dahlia freezes over, the world freezes, but then the bridge buckles and you get thrown into the water.
Yep. And you are trapped in a car, as it is in the water. Sinking to the bottom of this seemingly bottomless river, and monsters are passing out, or are passing by the windows and stuff. And you have to, for me, like, I don't know, I'm genuinely afraid of this happening. This was, terrifying when I first played it. You have to figure out what to do to get out of this car and escape.
Yeah. You don't have to. The game continues even if you die.
Right.
Just like different things happen.
Yeah.
So you can actually get out of the car. You can escape. You can also not do it. The monsters write threatening messages on the glass.
Love it.
In frost, which is cool. I still don't think it's scary, but it is cool.
Yeah.
When you wake up, you were in another Kaufman portion. You're in a psychology part. He starts talking about death.
Yeah.
And he says, I bet you'd want to die surrounded by your family. And then he does this, which is like such, not a psychological experiment, but I just liked doing it.
Yeah.
Like I just kind of thought it was great.
Mm-hmm.
Where he gives you a bunch of pictures of people with their eyes closed and says, divide these up into people who are dead and who are sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever you do the most of, there's an odd number, so you have to do the most of one of them.
Mm-hmm.
He says the opposite. And if he says, oh, of course I was just kidding, they're all sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not a big deal. But I love it. Like, so I got the opposite where I said, 4 of the 7 were sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, no, of course I'm just kidding. They're all dead. Yeah. And just that delivery is actually genuinely really good.
Yeah.
One of the better deliveries in the game.
Yeah.
So
very good. Yeah. It's a nice gotcha. Like, it's obviously a trick question, but engage with it in good faith.
Really macabre.
Yes.
Here's a bunch of pictures of dead people.
For me, because I forgot how to get out of the car, it cuts to Harry unconscious under a bridge, and Sybil comes by and picks me up, saying like, "Hey, she takes me to the hospital." And I wake up. She's like, "Yeah, you the bridge was up, and you stupid jackass, you moron, you tried to swim across the river." Yeah.
Why is nobody actually nobody acts like it's cold?
Right.
In this, which I do think is kind of a bummer.
Yes.
Because that's actually pretty scary and no one acknowledges it at all. I got out of the car and you end up swimming, like you beat yourself basically, and then run into Sybil. So it doesn't actually change very much.
Yeah.
You just do it yourself. You talk to Sybil starts talking about, she's, hey, I pulled your file at the station.
I've got some very interesting findings about whether or not you're alive.
You're alive. Yep. The hospital freezes over. This is probably the first one of these freezes that I was really frustrated with. Oh. It starts off a little bit different, which is fine, but I'm like, oh, you're really just going to do this every 30 minutes or so, really? Yeah. Like I was very frustrated with this, and I don't get any joy out of them. I wasn't enjoying them before, but I was at this point, I was sick of them in a pretty hard way. Like, oh, you just fucking did this. Yeah. Like we just did this game. Mm-hmm. You can't just keep pulling this trick. No. It's not good enough. This sucks. I mean, I like that you're in a wheelchair when you initially start. I like that you fall downstairs in it, not because I'm
hilarious.
Wheelchairs falling down. Yeah, it's not in America's Funniest Home Videos way. I just like it as something that would happen to you. Mm-hmm. And then after you fall down, you just get up and there were a chase sequence. Yeah.
Kind of like out of the hospital and then back through a different part of it to get to the ER. Yeah. This terminates into you are in a hospital room and to see a frozen dad and daughter. And the dad is, for me, the dad was spoiling her. He was talking to the mom, saying like, "Oh my gosh, like why are you buying her all that stuff? Like that's not a complaint, actually. She's in the hospital. You need to take care of her and make her feel good and safe because this sucks. Nobody should be in a hospital." Yeah. But
close down all the hospitals. You heard it here first, folks.
Yep.
Get off the public dime. Yeah. Parasites. She was spoiling her too, because it's monstrous to be like, why would you give your daughter all those things when they're hospital? Yeah. But again, you have to remember, like, one of the things whenever anyone acts super fucked up in this game is you have to realize it's an unreliable narrator.
Yes. Yeah.
Like the mom probably never said that.
Yes.
That is Cheryl remembering it because remembering her mom.
Yes. Yeah. Remembering her mom as a monster and her dad as the one who always gave her, what she wanted or what she felt she needed.
Yeah. There isn't a Silent Hill Shattered Memories for the mom. No. But there probably should be, because she's also, I'm cured. I have an accurate picture of my dad. Unlike my mom, the horrible monster slut. Like,
one of the endings has her reconciling with her mom.
Yeah. I did not get that one.
Yeah.
So.
But the puzzle here, she talks about like, hey, daddy requests the song again. And to open the door, you have to dial a phone number, the last digit of which is the number of a song called Daddy's Girl on the poster nearby. Like this thing actually exists. Big hospitals have radio stations and television stations specifically for the kids there. Actually, yeah. But you have to just intuit like, Daddy's Girl will be what you need to call in, and that opens the door.
Yeah. That is how you get out. You get to this lobby. We meet Lisa. So Lisa's head is bleeding from an accident. She is disoriented. She's a nurse.
Yes.
She wants to go back to her place to clean up. And you learn about her, and she talks about how doctors are all drunks and perverts. They're all horrible. And we go to her house, and you kind of talk about yourself a little bit, like you're a writer. You write romance novels. That feels like something that could change, but I can't remember if it is.
Yeah,
that's
like,
what I said as well.
Like earlier, I had a conversation with Sybil, and she asked, like, "Hey, dude, when you're talking about this weird conspiracy that's going on, just like, hey, do you write like detective novels or whatever?" He's like, "Yeah, but that's not the point."
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that can change. That feels like a little detail that could have been squared away or set in stone. But yeah, like Lisa's, really opening up with you. You're concerned about her head wound. She's basically here, she's here by the same way that you're here. And you're treating her likely treating her the way people should treat you, which is, hey, do you want to, I don't know, like take some medicine for that or wrap that up? And she's like, no, I'm a nurse. It's fine.
Yeah. It's probably, best for her with her head injury, not just to like take a bunch of pills and fall asleep. Like she tells you which pills to get. Yeah. She says she's self-medicating, but it's not great.
No.
This is another thing where she sends you up to go get this medicine, and you can dig around her stuff, look through her bathroom or prescriptions and stuff. She asks you to get a very specific pill.
Yeah. And you can bring her the wrong pill, which will kill her. She dies anyway, but it determines whether you're responsible for it or not. Yep. People get up in arms a little bit about this portrayal of Lisa because it is so different than in the original game. Lisa is the nurse who took care of Alessa back in the day, and she is kind of depicted more as just a general benevolent good. Here Lisa kind of corresponds to somebody who she knew in high school. Is what it is. So it is, because she did not have this, kind of savior relationship with Lisa, she is not glorified like she is previously. Yeah.
Seems like a silly thing to get mad about to me.
Welcome to the Silent Hill community, Gary.
I'm good. I'm gonna be over here partying with all the Resident Evil kids, doing drugs and jerking off. It's gonna be awesome. We're just gonna shoot things. It's gonna be fun in our hands. So I just summer here. So it seems very silly. So she falls asleep. We cut back to Kaufman, and Kaufman's talking about guilt. Of course, then she's going to die. That's what plays into it, like a little bit of almost foreshadowing. I love this psychological.
It's very
test.
good.
He gives you this little parable about a knight, a king, a maiden, and a bull, and tells you the story about the knight wants to marry her. She doesn't want to do it. The king makes her do it. Because she didn't want to, she runs away and gets ran over by a bull. And he says, like, rank these people from most guilty to least guilty.
Yes. It's only checking to see which of them you find most guilty. So for me, the knight or the prince for forcing her into the marriage was the one that I held most culpable. But whatever you do, it will like Kaufman has a response to. So if you put the bull, because he is the one who was most directly responsible for the death, saying, yeah, there's no ignoring the facts. The bull was the one that killed her.
Yeah, you're not a good person if you put the bull.
No,
that's crazy. The animal did it. Like guns don't kill people.
I kill people with guns.
Guns do kill people. The people holding the triggers don't actually matter, though. It's actually the device.
Yeah,
and that's no one who is arguing for gun control is arguing that.
Right.
It's not bull control. I put the king. Don't capitulate to outside powers.
Oh,
yeah. And at this point I kind of know the metaphor as well.
Oh yeah.
That's the father and stuff. And it's like, well, this is, playing the role, at least a little bit. So this switches back to Harry. We're at we're trying to get to Simmons Street here on our way. We have to pass through the mall. Right. And the mall's really fun. The mall has a bunch of phone numbers, lots of really great detail.
Yeah.
Lots of things you can call.
This kind of goes backward. Instead of going to the regular version of the mall first, you go to the frozen version.
Oh, the scary
first,
mall. When you eventually get to the good mall, it's good.
Yes.
In my head, I had bypassed the frozen version because I hate them so fucking much.
Yeah.
It's just really boring, and we just goddamn did one. You don't have to do one of these every chapter.
Right.
Like,
but you get back, so you get to the garage. Lisa calls you saying like, Carrie, if you gave her the wrong medicine, fuck you. I can't believe you poisoned me. If you gave her the right medicine, it's like, oh my God, I need help. Come get me. Regardless, you get back and she dies, and the way that she dies is reminiscent of Lisa's death in the first game, with the blood pouring out of her hairline and out of her eyes. And of course, the police always walk in right when the person dies. Sybil comes in, gun drawn, and blames you for the death. And when she says, "You're not Harry Mason," the world freezes.
Yep. Which is, again, the trigger for this is fine. Like, it's interesting, but just having to play through it is what annoys me. So you go through the frozen mall. It's a boring maze with boring monsters chasing you. You get to the lobby of this. There's another frozen father and daughter. The daughter wants gumballs, but she wants specific colors.
Yes.
From a specific toucan, Toluca the toucan. So you have to get gumballs in the right order.
Right. To know that order, you either had to have taken a photo of the statue of the toucan, specifically the color of his beak, or you have to run back out into the monster den in order to take the photo and come back.
Yeah.
Yep.
When you do get that, it opens the door. This brings us into the real mall, which is cool.
This is
so
great.
Take those things I said were cool and add it to that.
Right. And, abandoned malls are always going to be fun. Yeah. I love the wrecked up pet store. The toy store where you have to derail the train. It's real good.
Yeah.
Lots of cool little playgrounds for the physics and stuff. Lots of phone numbers, lots of ads for you to pay attention to.
Yeah. And then this kind of stuff gives, a sense of world. Like I love fake advertisements in games. Real advertisements in real life?
No, fuck
die.
That. Yeah.
Die. But fake advertisements in games? Yes.
Aquacure?
Yes.
Give me that Aquacure.
Oh man, I love Aquacure. Don't you just think it would taste good? like really refreshing?
I think it would look like it tastes good, but I think it would taste really vile. Probably for legal reasons. If they made it taste like candy, it would be like a Tide Pods thing, where it would be really attractive. Like seriously, when I see the name Aquacure, I think of like Barba. No, the Aquanet, but just Barbicide. The blue stuff.
Delicious Barbicide.
Yep. Delicious, nutritious, full of vitamins Barbicide. The blue stuff that
comes in a Gatorade bottle and you drink it.
Yeah,
I know. Aquacure. What's the other drug that they have? They have another funny drug. There's 3 funny drugs in Resident Evil 3.
They've got one that's like it's like asperprofen or something like that.
Yeah, asperprofen, Aquacure. I love how vague Aquacure is. It's a cure. I don't know. And there's a third one too.
Yeah,
I love that. I love Umbrella branching out into non-evil products. It's very funny to me. So you eventually get through here. You get to the next hall. You can go through a beauty shop or a gift shop. I exit through the gift shop, and you have to do these audio anniversary cards. If you remember those things, that's how you get the exit code, which is kind of fun, but mostly just opening things and playing with the Wiimote. This exits here. You get into this photography store where you get a text message where this teen girl is bragging about shoplifting, and the whole kind of thing, all the different messages we're getting through here tell this little story about a security guard who feels bad because she catches the girl shoplifting and thinks she maybe needs it, and then eventually gets stabbed.
Yes,
by that girl who is shoplifting.
Yeah. The 3 medicines are Aquacure, Safsprin, and Adravil.
Yay! God, I love Umbrella. Have some Safsprin.
It makes you feel safe.
Okay,
feel safe with Safsprin.
Yeah, get a headache. Just get yourself some Safsprin. Okay, Mr. Spencer. I know that Spencer didn't work for Umbrella.
Oh no, he did. Yeah, Spencer was one of the founders. Oswald Spencer.
But he also did the mansion. Yeah.
No.
But he's not going to work for their.
It was his mansion. It was the Trevor who designed the mansion.
But he didn't work for it during Resident Evil 3 times.
No. Well, no, he did.
Really?
Yeah. So Oswald Spencer dies in the prelude DLC for Resident Evil 5.
Oh.
Yeah, he was still alive.
I thought he was long dead. I've not played that DLC. because of Resident Evil 5 reasons.
Well, yeah, because it's attached to a bad game. But
yeah, I wanted to explore the mansion, but I haven't done it. And I keep trying to get Derek to play through the DLC with me, and he's just like, doesn't want to play Resident Evil 5.
Yeah, I can't blame Derek.
Yeah, I can't really blame you for that. Yeah. And then we tried to play Revelations co-op, but in Revelations you have to beat a level single player before you can play it co-op, which makes you want to break somebody's fucking legs.
Yeah,
I'm so mad by that decision. It's so dumb.
It's really bad.
I mean, that's thank God for Resident Evil 7 for like coming through and fixing. Like Revelations is fine.
Yeah.
It's frustrating that the monsters are just goo things that just dissolve instead of. I know that happens in 7, but they're not creepy looking goo things. Like they don't leave bodies. There's no like blood or anything. It feels like it was made for a lesser system, even the PC port of it.
Yeah, Revelation 2 is better.
Yeah, it's okay. Like I played it. You're on a beach. It's a lot of BSSA lore stuff. It's like it's it's moving into the story stuff that I'm like a little bit less interested in, while still being a relatively fun game.
Yeah,
but thank God for 7.
Thank God for 7. On your way out of the mall, after you've learned all of this kind of ancillary story about the problem child, you get a text message from Dahlia. For me, she was bored and missed me, and of course, this is us about to arrive at home. And the apartment that you're at is not really in a good neighborhood. As evidenced by the fact that to get there, you have to go through a little pawn shop puzzle. You have to knock a key loose to get back there. And I love this reveal. Yeah. Because you go upside and you go in, Dahlia doesn't recognize you. And you don't really recognize her that much because she's old now. And, it looks like she's lived a very difficult life. And when she recognizes, hey, you're Harry, you're Harry as I knew you, back when we were young and attractive, she gets lovey-dovey saying like, hey, just don't you remember Sid and Nancy? We're married. And points out her ring, which looks like an Ouroboros, and saying like, hey, Cheryl is probably still at the lighthouse if you're looking for her, but she is, she wants to reconcile with you, and all of this is too much and the world freezes.
Yeah. But we have a goal here to get to that lighthouse eventually.
Yes.
You leave the apartment, and the stairs lead down in this like real gigantic, huge chamber. And when they end, you jump down the stairs, passing these window cutouts of a bedroom.
I love this. The scene is subtly different in each of them, so it kind of animates a little bit as you are falling an impossibly long distance. Very House of Leaves-y, just to fill out the bingo card or whatever. And this is, this fills the role of the nowhere portion of the game, where you are going through a space that makes absolutely no logical sense. It is taking you in and out of story stuff in a cool way, because you're just at the bottom of this large chamber and you have to wander around finding the edges until eventually you're warped to this impossible apartment maze where you have a choice of 4 different ways to go and you have to puzzle out the way to get through.
Yeah. And when you go through here, they do have like a little bit of a sense of place to them because you're going through places where people live.
Yeah.
Which I like, through these kind of series of bedrooms, living rooms, and such. When you pass by a TV, it's playing that home movie that you saw. So this is, good and creepy. For the chase sequences, this is better than the "what if you were outside."
Yeah.
Agreed. Eventually, you get to another kind of leap of faith. You pass by stills of the home movie. Things are very like explicitly surreal now as well. Like if you had not felt like you entered the Spider-Verse up until this point, you've certainly entered the Spider-Verse.
Right.
It's time for Silent Hill Enter the Spider-Verse. The stills from the home movie animate, and then they get intercut with pictures of the car crash.
Yeah.
This is an aside, but for Unfilmable, we're going to talk about Lovecraftian short films next episode, and a lot of them do stuff like this. Like this kind of like it like works in a game because you're moving through it. In video or music video, it feels kind of cheap to me, where it's just like, what if we intercut it feels student film. Like to me, like let's intercut pictures of something bad with something good. Really quickly. Like it's a Nine Inch Nails video from 1993.
The montage, the juxtaposition theory of montage.
Yes. Yeah. And a really student, like, oh, here's a cracked piece of glass, a spider in a web, and a butterfly. Or like in Art School Confidential. Oh yeah. With the tampon in a teacup. Kind of thing. Mother, father, whore, mother, father. That kind of thing. Like it feels a little bit like that. Like I think it's laying it on a little thick. here. Like, it is cool looking. It is going a bit further than I want.
Yeah.
This, I guess, especially because we went from, because it's kind of special to feel like it might be grounded, but something is subtly off. And this just hits the throttle all the way to surreal nothingscape.
Yeah.
And I understand it's a series tradition thing, but in terms of what it does for the pace and tone of the game, I'm not super crazy about it.
Yeah. Like I'm fine with it because you have passed kind of over the threshold. You're at the the kind of the final likely place that things could have been. A major portion of the truth has been revealed to you. Yeah. Like it's good, and I will always be down for a twisted space, a surreal space. Yeah. But you fall, and this leap of faith drops you into this maze with these invisible walls that you have to navigate by the shadows of the walls. This is cool and good because your goal is relatively it's visible to you. You see Dahlia frozen on her bed, and you're trying to get close to it, but you have to lead away and then lead back. And this, when you reach there, cuts back to the impossible apartment maze again. And the actual path forward is more apparent now because the door you need to go through has more ice accumulated around it. Like, this is the resistance. This is a place where you should not be going, but you are pressing against that. Yeah.
When you get there, you get to Cheryl's room. She's not there. And you pass out. You drop a picture of the two of you. And of course, this is time for Kaufman. We cut to him. We're going to talk about marriage. He asks you some questions about marriage, and they're very leading.
Yeah.
Surely you don't believe that a marriage can last forever. It's this,
do you think
this weird thing that,
do you really think they should stay together for the kids? And at this point he says like, oh, I'm just trying to provoke you. Right. Which is not something a therapist should do.
But it makes do you think that a couple should stay together for the kids is a much better question of Cheryl than Harry.
Yes.
So like once the twist, it's a better question. But yeah, he's being a bad therapist. And then he has you match up photos and say which ones are couples. Now this, I don't know if this is a colorblind thing, but there are ways you can match them up, which I did not put together at all. I felt like he was just asking me to put together featureless cubes.
Yeah.
But you can do it by outfit, by whether they're smiling, like body posture. This actually does something, but I had no idea.
Yeah.
This felt like hey, put random things together randomly.
A little bit. Yeah. I think that the major thing that it is testing is, are you putting people together for superficial reasons, or are you looking at their expressions and matching like with like? Yeah.
And I just missed that completely.
Yeah.
What it was asking. We switch back over to Harry. Michelle wakes you up from there. And, you mentioned this getting to the lighthouse. She says, oh, John can drive us there.
Oh, John's here.
And there's a John. Like, it's real weird to have a dude.
Yeah, especially she was talking about him like he was, in another state.
Yep. And he shows up and he, again, really kind of hinting and stuff, he breaks up with her in the car in front of you. And you're like, oh, don't mind me. And it's like, totally mind me.
Yeah.
Like, this sucks, dude.
Yeah. This is a horrible thing.
Yeah. This is a horrible situation. Yeah. But his point here, this is the load bearing point. He's like, you don't actually love me. You love an idea of me.
Yeah.
Which is one, obviously very germane to the game, but two is a thing that happens.
Yeah.
Right. Like that is a well-observed relationship problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was happy to see it here because I was like, oh, that's definitely a thing that happens.
As immortalized in Prince of Tides.
Yeah. Yeah. I assume you're correct.
It sounds like I'm joking, but yeah, that is what that hinges around. Yeah.
Interesting.
It is a well observed thing. And this always happens. It is always the case where John brings you into the car and breaks up with you in front of her, basically so there can be a witness. So like yes, this is for real. I have been hinting at this for a long time. You just haven't accepted it.
Yeah.
You're in denial about the situation of this, and it is very bad for both of us that you have not moved on.
Yeah. Yeah. It is sad. They get out of the car and they disappear at this point. So you're left again in the car. You get out at this lakeside, and the only way forward is to move through the sewers.
Yeah. Very brief. Thankfully, there's no chase sequence on the sewers, which would have been that would have fucking torn it.
I almost guarantee that there was one and it got cut. Like, how would they not put one in this section? How would they not put one in the sewers?
How would they not touch that stove burner?
Yeah, I almost guarantee at one point there was.
Yeah.
So I don't know that for sure, but it just feels very likely to me.
Yeah. But as you reach the end, Cheryl calls, and the content of this call can change depending on, what your personality profile is. For me, she says, "Daddy, you shouldn't come. It's not safe. Just stop where you're at." Again, her mind trying to keep you away from the reality. The content can also be like, "Daddy, I'm scared of you. Don't get any closer." Things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So we climb up this ladder at the end of the sewers, and we're at the amusement park. The Lakeside Amusement Park, which is themed around dragons and knights and stuff because it's good. Mm-hmm. In this place, we get to a bar where we find Michelle, after the breakup. And she admits, like, yeah, I was only in love with the idea of John. She's taking it very well, actually. And she says, listen, the only way you're going to get to the lighthouse is through a boat, so you have to get to the jetty.
Yeah. This cuts you out to Kaufman, and he's, this is kind of the infamous section where, he says, like, okay, it's time, let's talk about sex, baby. Yeah. Let's talk about you and me. And
all the good things and the therapy that can be.
but he just straight up says, like, yeah, people say psychologists are obsessed with sex, but really it's you. It is you who are upset. We would not talk about it if you were not so hung up about it. So let's put it to bed once and for all. Here are these ink blots. And you need to
put it to bed with this discredited movie trope science.
Yes. Yeah. So you need to separate the ink blots from sex symbols and death symbols.
I don't think he does say death symbols.
Not
he just
death
says
symbols.
Which ones are sexual?
Yeah, it's sexual and not
it's supposed
sexual.
To be a twist, and it's so dumb. Like I think this is dumb as hell. So there's like a couple of them look like vaginas.
Yep.
And then you use like which ones are sexual and non-sexual, and he goes, actually, they're all death, and flips them over, and they're all pieces from Clue.
Yep.
And it's basically, and he's like, gotcha.
And he goes into this monologue, which I might just cut in here.
Sex is death. It's a leap into the void, the great loss of self, the tiger in space, a plea for annihilation. To deny sex is to deny death itself. People who are getting enough don't need analysis. You clearly are not getting enough.
But him talking about how death and sex are sides of the same coin, Thanatos and Eros, the tiger in space, the plea for annihilation.
The little death, when it's the total subsummation of control. And it's like, there's something to that.
Yeah.
I would leave any therapist who just straight up told me that with a straight face with no caveats or anything. You'd be like, you're not good at your job, my friend.
Yeah. Well, and also when he says, people who get enough don't need therapy. You, my friend, are not getting enough.
Which is extremely problematic and horrible to say to a traumatized young woman.
Yeah.
And just extremely grotesque, and just makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like it's, it feels like edgy for the sake of being edgy. It feels like, all the previous Silent Hill games had this psychosexual component. We have to really lean on that.
Yeah.
Whereas previous, it had been pretty restrained.
Yeah.
And pretty well observed. Like it's not, in Silent Hill 2, it's this raging id. Like what if a penis monster fucked a mannequin? Like, and not just like fucked it, like held its legs and then like fucked its face, like holding in this Y position. Like it's really, really, deep stuff. And here it's like, you had pet names for my titties.
Yeah.
Like here it is like much more well observed and grounded. And then this part, it's like, feels like putting on an act.
Really silly. Yeah, you're trying a little bit too much, buddy. You're selling past the clothes. And there's an aspect to this too where I can kind of go either way. But on one hand, it is presenting the sexual and addiction stuff with a very heavy judgment. Like it is coming at it from a pretty conservative, small c conservative, moral stance. And you could say like, okay, that is Cheryl's conception of all of this. She is judging and damning her father because of these vices that have become apparent to her, or the lack of these vices, that reveal themselves, through there. Or it could just be this game on, underlining some really shitty, some pretty shitty, attitudes as it goes. And Kaufman, as the mouthpiece that is screaming them directly at the player, can cause that to clang in a really serious way, I think, especially when sex was treated relatively without judgment before. Like, it was just a fact of the profile for James, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and, and also once the twist comes out, the power dynamics at play make this super gross even on the surface.
Yeah.
Like, not even just yelling at the player, but also just yelling at,
this traumatized 25-year-old woman. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty horrible.
Yeah.
So again, worst therapist. So, you're not having enough sex. Then we go back to Harry. You have to, in order to get through the tunnel of love, you need to chase the child shadow thing until it unfreezes the door. I don't know. You get through that. Not a whole lot to it. You board this ship called the Orpheus.
and alarm.
Yeah. Yeah. And young Dahlia is back.
Yep.
She's drinking.
Yes. She can be even more drunk. I think she is always drinking. For me, she was just kind of like friendly. I was like, oh, what is this? She says, oh, it's a boat. It's like a car that goes on water, and stop calling me Shirley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she's kind of, she puts you on the course for the lighthouse, and she's again kind of taunting you, about this thing. Like, I told you, like, I'm the lay of your life, your salvation, your curse. I taste sweet, don't I? Like, and there's a sex scene.
It cuts away, like it doesn't.
It cuts away. It's not Dragon Age. Yeah. They were just pulling for two separate BioWare nightmares when it comes to human copulation. Just which group of real dolls smashed together for disgusting
for your amusement. And also people who want to see those characters. There's a fantasy.
I know there's an emotional reaction.
I just want to make sure that we are not flippant and hurt people's feelings. It is presented really gross.
Who thought that, like, Morrigan and what's his head, like, that sex made sense for them to make the counter Christ or whatever the hell happened at Dragon Age. I do not know how you have a moral attachment to that. BioShock, perhaps. Dragon Age is absolutely not.
Mass Effect?
Mass Effect, perhaps.
Yeah.
BioShock 2.
Yeah.
Like, I would also accept that.
Yeah.
Like, I've always wanted to see a Sander Cohen X. Sophia Lamb.
Yeah.
Who hasn't? What do the kids look like? Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's artistic communists. It's great.
Yeah. It just the present. I think the presentation is the ickiest part of that. It's being mannequins, Uncanny Valley, Indigo Prophecy shit. Yeah.
See the Dispatch episode on Sex and Games. Yeah. For our opinion about it too, not like that for some expertise. It's just where we land on it, or see the entire oeuvre of the podcast.
Right.
You can do those two things. Harry wakes up in the dark. Dahlia has aged and frozen during this time, and he puts on clothes. He puts on the Hawaiian shirt from the home movie because we're going back to the opening credits.
And the lake is frozen as well. The ship is stranded, and you step down and you're running. The lighthouse is off in the distance. This is a cool little echo of the Toluca Lake scene in Silent Hill 2. And as you're running, Dahlia calls saying, Harry, turn back for our daughter's sake. You can't keep going. Yeah. And you are getting these picture messages from Sybil saying, like, hey, is this your cute 7-year-old? And it's Heather standing there holding a number, holding a number sign, like, oh, it's her mugshot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the monsters, the Rorschachs, converge, and they have to take you down. You can't escape them this time.
No.
And as they take you down, they're frozen by the lighthouse light.
Yeah.
It hits them, the ice breaks under you, and you have to swim.
Yeah.
This is the thing that judges you whether you try to swim or not.
Mm-hmm.
If you just sink, that's a big points for the pacifism.
Yes.
Ending.
Mm-hmm. Not pacifism, the passive ending.
Passive ending. Yeah, I mean, it's all pacifism ending.
Yeah.
You can't fight back. You're looking at the lake, and there are these scenes that are frozen on the bottom of the water, like the Titanic or whatever.
Yeah.
Like little scenes. It's pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at.
Yeah.
And eventually you do pass out, whether you try or not.
Yeah. And Sybil drags you up on the shore and wakes you up. Harry takes her gun. Probably not a great thing. And the scene can play out in a bunch of different ways. For me, because I had my eye on the prize and, was on the track for the good ending, she believes me. She's like, okay, like, I believe you believe that you're Harry Mason. There is something going on here, but you have to know if you are Harry Mason, you died in a car crash 18 years ago.
Yeah, I got the same.
Yeah.
I think my eyes on the prizeness have made this converge, basically.
Yeah.
With that ending.
And she can, like, the other way can go is, she's like, hey, I'm going to, she keeps on trying to arrest you, but because you have the gun, you run away.
Yeah, like real life.
Yeah.
Just try to arrest somebody with a gun. Don't actually try to do that.
No,
Bad things happen.
Yeah.
Don't take that sentence as meaning anything.
No.
That was just a joke about this person not being able to arrest you because you have a gun, and has no bearing on real life.
No.
We find out for the lighthouse here on our way here is that it's actually like lighthouse therapy and like, counseling or whatever.
Yeah, it's the lighthouse psychiatric clinic. Presiding doctor Michael Kaufman. Michael Kaufman being,
zero on Yelp. But just show up anyway.
Dr. Kaufman is the doctor from the first Silent Hill game, the one who was in it for the money and has developed the cure, the Aglophidus.
Yeah. Yes, it's a Pokemon Go stop. No, you shouldn't actually use it as a psychologist.
So you walk in the front door and it cuts to Kaufman, and he is in full on rant mode, and he is out laying out the what's been going on. He is berating you for not getting the hint for 18 years, saying we're dealing with this thick skull that is teeming with agents of repression, blind children clutching photos, pale goggle-eyed freaks watching home movies on loop. And he eventually climaxes. He throws his rocks glass against the wall and yells at you, "Wake up, your dad wasn't a hero, your dad wasn't a knight in shining armor. He was a human being. You never knew him and you never will."
Yes. Also not best practices for a psychologist.
Right.
To have a freak out where he screams at you as if he's invested and he's having the breakthrough. But it makes a great scene because, last we left Harry, he walked through and then you walk into the door.
Yeah.
Super good.
Yeah,
great little gut punch.
You are first person as Cheryl. Harry walks in, it reveals the first person, and if everything else was not the hint for you, like, oh, you're playing as different people in these different scenes, that underlines it.
Yeah,
very really good moment. And of course, Kaufman is not aware of you. You are seeing this. This is happening in Cheryl's head.
Yeah. Kaufman's very personally invested at this point. And he continues saying, like, hey, and don't be so hard on your mother and me. You're a psychologist, Dr. Kaufman.
Please, 5 stars on Yelp.
Yeah, 5 stars on Yelp. At least you caught a licky tongue. Come on. You see Cheryl. Harry walks up to her. And, she says, like, you've been with me for so long. I always will be. And then outside, Cheryl walks up to Dahlia and hugs her because that's the mom.
Yeah.
And then we get the ending here. We cut to the home movie. This hug of the car we see in the photo of the castle, and Harry moving out. And this is the same thing I got. Yeah. Where the little girl is filming this, and she's like, "Don't film this." And then the mom is saying, and then which is reasonable. And then Harry kind of bends down and says, like, "Listen, even though we don't love each other anymore, we'll always love you."
Yeah. That's very, very sweet.
Yeah, it's a good ending.
Yeah.
And then I got the credits with a psychological profile that I don't feel like applied to me very well.
Yeah. Mine hit the spot. I feel like, I don't know, at least as far as my image of me, good natured, but way too uptight is basically what it came out as. So, yeah.
There's an element of these where it feels similar to horoscopes, where they're all true of everyone. Like cold reading.
Yeah.
Like that. Oh, like you're sometimes too hard on yourself, but sometimes you feel pride. And like, of course,
in summary, Cole is a land of contradictions.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's an element of cold reading to this whole thing. This ended up being the least impressive trick to me. The part of it, like, people were very impressed by this. Like, when you read about it on TV Tropes or you read reviews, like, people are like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this specifically to call you out, but I do feel like there's an element of just being cold read.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That is making this feel cooler than it is. And overshadowing the actual cool part is that, oh man, it's not a beer can for you, it's actually a pop can. Like that is the cool part.
That is the absolutely cool part. Yeah, and last impressions are important sometimes. You know, and the fact that I don't know of other games that act as a 6-hour-long personality test. You know, a 6-hour-long MySpace grade personality test.
Yeah. Nothing wrong. It's cool to try that.
Yeah. But the ending can go very different. There are actually 2 parts of the ending. And it is the part where Harry walks up to her in the inside, and then there is the different videos that you can get. And they are all, dependent on your behavior. So like inside, Harry can walk up to her and she can reject you. Saying, you are not my dad. My dad died 17 years ago. Just you're somebody who's a monster who I don't know. And Harry freezes and shatters, actually, because she has rejected
a shattered
you.
memory.
Yeah, that's the title of this game. The other one would be that she refuses to accept that you're dead. And says, none of this is real. You're always going to be with me, and it is kind of a negative echo of the good ending that we got.
Yep. And then the video gets taped over, the amusement park video, either with your dad being a drunk, or you come home and yell at your daughter, you having an affair, like you taped over it with your affair.
Yeah, your sex tape. Fucked up
tape.
thing to do.
Fucked up thing. This affair with Michelle and Lisa.
Yep, Harry's on a boat with Michelle and Lisa.
Yep.
And or it could be that this one clangs against the others because it's not necessarily like it doesn't feel like it's Harry's failing. It feels like this reflects poorly on Dahlia. She's like Dahlia's verbally abusing you, calling you a dickless wonder. I think literally, like she calls you a dickless disgrace or something like that because you're a bad provider. Saying like, oh my god, I can't believe we can't pay our bills.
No, nobody buys your novels.
Yeah.
The and that's pretty shitty.
Yeah.
I think that's probably rooted in some 2009. I don't necessarily know that Sam Barlow would do that now and just make it, what about this harpy?
Yes.
I think that doesn't not dated very well as an idea, but like I lit off the hook because it's 2009 and didn't know or should have known, but didn't.
Yeah.
And that's Silent Hill Shattered Memories, which is like a good game and a cool game. And if it were twice the length, I would say no one should play it. Like it's
I'd agree with that.
It's a cool game because it's really slight and goes by pretty quick. So the bad parts are over fast.
Yeah. As a 7-hour experiment, like I would say, it's difficult to play this because, like getting a Wii is, getting a functioning Wii sucks. Yeah.
Well, you have to pull it out of the closet. Like even just getting one out of my closet sucks. Like hooking it up, putting up that bar. What were we thinking? Like,
why do we think that was okay?
Yeah, the whole thing was very dumb.
Yeah.
But you have to get that out, and you're rewarded. It's a pain. It is cool. You're rewarded, and because it is very specific, it's not the kind of like a lot of those games that are a mixed bag. It's like, oh, you can watch a Let's Play. Like I don't think you're going to get the same thing watching a Let's Play of this because it's no longer, even though this doesn't perfectly reflect on the player, the ways it does will be neutered if you do it that way. So it's like, no, you should play it. I would give some credence to the idea of emulating it and playing it on PS2.
Yeah.
Yes, you're missing, that kind of fun toy part of it, but is that the coolest thing about this?
Probably not. No.
It's cool, but it's not the coolest thing.
Yeah.
You're still going to get the story and stuff. I think that would probably be a good way to play it.
Yeah, I would co-sign that. I've not played it. I don't know if it has like bad,
maybe it's buggy as hell. Maybe
technical issues and you fall through the ground or whatever. But yeah, you would get the coolest thing about it, most likely.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and it's something you don't get from reading about it or from watching a Let's Play.
It's reactive to you in a way that I think that we value. Yeah.
And it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah,
like it's neat. It is neat. It's a cool trick. And it is, it's not my favorite, Silent Hill.
No,
even though like with Silent Hill is like, it's a weird thing where they're basically like, it's like a 3-way tie for second after 2
right.
for me. Like they're all like pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I don't love 3. I didn't love the first one. I don't love this. I like it though.
Yeah.
2 is the masterpiece in the series. The rest of them are varying degrees of good.
Yeah.
I
mean, the ones that you have played, once you get Homecoming, that things start falling off. That might be a controversial opinion. I know there are people in the audience who are over the moon about Homecoming. It's just there's a noticeable drop in quality.
It's my understanding of 4 as well. Like, is that like it does neat things, but it's frustrating.
Yeah. For I don't know. I want to cover it in depth on the show, but I worry about making you play it.
Yeah, it's a bummer that this series so quickly kind of became full of caveats before it could be reborn.
Yeah.
Resident Evil, like from the ashes.
Yes.
Yeah. Which ends up making this as kind of an interesting. I'm glad that we paired this with RE7 related content, even though it's, to my mind, by far not the strongest RE7 related content. Just because they're both, RE7 was a rebirth for that series, and this could have been that for Silent Hill, and kind of just wasn't. Like obviously PT would have been that, and then it didn't happen.
Yep.
So
a shame.
Yeah, totally a shame.
Yeah.
That's shared memories.
Yeah. One thing that we didn't talk about is technically on the for the Wii, a game of this era, this looks really good and performs really well. It is remarkable how high res the textures are, to where you can actually look at it and read the text and get the phone numbers. That sounds like super, I don't know. It sounds like a Steam curation group that I wouldn't want to start, wouldn't subscribe to, but it is worth saying, specifically here, because that does impact the play quite a bit.
Yeah, it looks nice. In a non-damning way.
Yeah.
Like legitimately just looks really nice.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably all I have to say about it. It is cool. It is a cool game.
Time flows, nobody knows. Years go by, where we go, alone from here. Night falls, strange colors.
Next week, we're going to, if you have anything to say about this cool game, you have until October 15th. If you have anything to say about Call of Cthulhu 2018, the Resident Evil 7 DLCs, or Alan Wake, that is also the deadline for those as well.
Yeah. The deadline for November's games is November the 15th, and those games are The Last Express, The Simpsons Hit and Run, and Deus Ex Human Revolution. Both Human Revolution and Alan Wake are premium episodes for this month. Everybody gets the generalities, but the full episode is reserved for our patrons.
Yeah. And a couple of people asked this. Just because it's the easiest way to play it, we will be doing the director's cut of Human Revolution.
Yes.
Which includes the previous DLC.
Yes.
As part of it, because it is a plot important DLC to a degree. Like it's a really weird DLC. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But the other reason is we want to do the director's cut because it fixes the boss fights. And I played both versions. We can speak to the original version, or at least I can during the episode. But if we're going to cover one, I would prefer, one of the things I like about the medium is that it can improve and that you can fix things. And I would rather do the fixed versions.
Agreed.
Than play the original versions of the boss fight. So that means we include the missing link. But the missing link is fun and good on its own. So, yeah. And then we have fun stuff planned for December as well. We'll be talking about those in the dispatch. If you want to get those premium episodes, or if you just want to support us, or if you want a bunch of other bonus stuff, that is patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Yep. If you don't have the money for that, you can either save up. We have no problem with that. Just wait until you have $5 to spare, throw $5 at us, download those episodes, listen to them unpatronized. Does not bother us.
Does not bother us. We built that in. So like at this point, you get, I think, this would be 9 premium episodes of this show.
And they're some of our best.
Yeah.
Like, I think the Half-Life 2 episode is extremely good. I think the BioShock Infinite episode is extremely good. Like, I think it's some of our best episodes. So happy to do that, because we really are grateful to patrons. We understand people who cannot afford it.
Yes.
And we built in a system. And, if you can't afford it, you can also, and you want to support us, you can hit us up with ratings and reviews on Apple Podcast. That's very helpful. Or talk about us on message boards and stuff.
Yeah. Greatly appreciated. If you're listening to this, we are about 3 weeks out, 2.5 weeks out from the Portland Retro Games Expo. Come on,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
We have preparation to do for that. And that is a wake-up call. So it is time to prepare for that panel and prepare for other things with that. So we'll be doing that. That'll be really fun. We'd love to see you. Yeah. And we'll have details about a meetup and stuff, probably like the weekend before. Like typically we get that stuff together at the last minute, but I don't think anybody who's coming is that worried about not knowing where they're going to be on a Saturday night. So and I think that's probably about it.
I think so.
Yeah. So we appreciate you. We will be back next week with the Resident Evil 7 DLC. It's kind of an experimental episode. We've never talked about that many disparate things.
I think the closest would be last year when we did the micro horror episode.
Yeah, but this is more horrors. This is like more. That was like 4 or 5 things. This is more than that. This is like 8 or 9 total things.
Something like that.
We're talking about. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting episode.
Yeah.
So come experiment with us. And until next time, what can they do, Cole? What can they watch out for?
They should watch out for this rocks glass.
Nope.